How are you all doing? Welcome back to our ATC course, or our virtual ATC course. Part 2, putting it all together. And you might be saying, Murph, what are you talking about, putting it all together? We only started. I know, right? So the idea behind tonight, hello there. I'm going to talk. Many thanks to the follows, lads. I'm going to talk about circuits. We're going to be practicing circuits next week. That's when the actual practice, the practical thing comes into it. But tonight, well, it's the theory. I want to talk to you about all the things we're going to be picking up and we're going to be learning. As we get another hello there. Welcome in. When it comes to flying circuits, and the reason why I've chosen circuits and the ATC with it, right? You all have to just behave yourselves now. The reason why I did this, circuit training is one of kind of the elementary stages of flight training. There is a general assumption that we know pretty much kind of how to fly to an extent, right? Not necessarily matching real world qualifications, but I mean, we know how to hop into a plane. We have an idea of how to move it on the ground. Taxiing, we can take off, we can fly, and we can land. I mean, that's the general assumption here. What we're going to do with circuits, it's because you have that constant working and honing in on your skills, be it on taxi, takeoff, flying, holding an altitude, holding a heading, right? Maintaining speed, descending, approach, and landing again. Well, once we kind of hone in on those skills and we just get more used to them, well, anything else that kind of we do online, it's relatively easy, because no matter what happens, no matter what flight we're going to do online, well, we're going to have to do all of these things. So the circuit is the best place to do all of this sort of training. So where does that come in with the ATC? Well, we need to have some sort of a script. We need to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, at certain times when we're talking to air traffic control. This course at the moment is based heavily on, it's aimed toward VATSim, and it's aimed at flying in Europe. In particular, it's flying in Ireland. But the skills you're going to learn here and how you're going to be able to communicate with ATC, there are many similarities between this and what they do in the UK or what they do in mainland Europe. And they're also similar enough to what they'll do in the United States. In fact, once we get this kind of a spiel nailed down, well, the rest of it it's only a matter of small conversions. Relatively speaking, it's a lot easier. But to learn this sort of a thing, well, the whole idea here is make sure you have a notebook and paper. This video will be recorded, so if you're watching us in the future, hello from the past, Murph. Historic Murph, as it were. And you can't be watching it in the past. That'd just be weird. But for those of us who are here present, good evening, welcome aboard. And if anyone is watching back this video on YouTube, well, I'll take my time.
Hello there.
I'm going to try, hello there. I'm going to try and explain everything in as much detail as we can when it comes to the circuit flying. Now, we still have a lot of other topics to get through tonight, but don't worry too much about everything else. When it comes to the charts, airspaces, METAR, ATIS, it's all about getting ourselves a little bit of familiarity, but don't get stuck on those details. Not yet. There's going to be plenty of time for those. For tonight, the main focus is going to be on flying in a circuit. Traffic pattern for our American brethren. That's pretty much what it is, right? Hello there. We have many hello there's. We have JXK is here. And who is this? Is it Adcare? Or Adcare? Welcome in, welcome in. Now, I'll get into the chat here now in a second. We'll say hello and welcome in as people continue to press buttons that make me go mad and happy at the same time. Thank you very, very much indeed. So what we're going to do, bit of music here, Murphy. Do you know? Ah, yes. Now, as I said, don't get confuddled with the amount of information that we have, right? Because, well, I've prepared some notes. So this is our ATC ground school document, a document that I made by collecting a whole load of information from all over the interwebs and a sprinkling of some of my own experience, information from the aviation authorities, from VATSim controllers as well. I want to give a big shout out to Skep, to Canton. Skep, who may not be here tonight in the chat. I wrecked her head yesterday. I spent ages chatting to her. And also some of the lovely folks over at VATAir, which would be the Irish airspace operators operating within the VATSim network. Some very, very helpful people there. And all of this, what we're doing, we're building ourselves up to doing our very first VATSim flight. So it's all work in progress, right? Anyway, this document, it is available over on our Discord. If you ramble over to our Discord, if you're new here, welcome aboard. !Discord will give you our Discord address. And once you get in to the Discord, you'll land at what's called the arrivals page. And Trailer Trash just joined the server earlier on. When you get to the arrivals page, you click on Start Here. Have a little read down through the terms of service, the guidelines. And the biggest guideline we have is, don't be an idiot. You're an idiot. Just don't be an idiot. Just think about it. Don't be that idiot. Anyway, if all is well in the round, there's a little shamrock down here behind my mallet head. You click on the shamrock, and then the whole shebang opens up. Now, what you need to do, you need to scroll down on the left-hand side where it says Pilot Ops, Pilot Operations. That's where you want to go. So go into Pilot Operations and click onto the ATC course. In here is all the details relating to the courses. Last week was lesson number 1. Getting rid of the owl mic fright. Some people have mic fright, and it's a real thing. You might be saying, what? Some people get very nervous or, apprehensive when they got to push the button to talk to ATC. So last week we tried to kind of crack the ice on that. A simple thing.
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
We wanted people to try and, don't worry about making a mistake. It's totally fine. This is a very safe and friendly environment. And, well, I'm at the helm, which means there's an idiot here, right? So don't worry if you make a mistake. I'll make plenty as well. But the idea is it's a safe and friendly environment that we can just, between ourselves, between the community members, that we can work on this together, right? So last week we focused on choosing a call sign, okay, the aircraft call sign that we want. And we're not dealing with the Speedbirds or the Shamrocks or any of these sort of lads. They're for the airliners. We're looking at this stage just when it comes to general aviation. So we're looking at aircraft registration numbers. Different letters for different countries. It's entirely up to yourselves. So last week we had a good number of people for the very first time jump on and do an owl radio check. And I simulated air traffic control. I have a lovely air traffic control voice.
Yes, that's right. We use a very nice voice for ATC.
Right, and that's what we do. So that's what I was doing last week, right? Can I do me circuits in an F-35? Up the yard. But yes, that was last week, and we're going to have a look over that lesson from last week. And if you read down through it, it gives you an overview, and it tells you all about the voice channels that we have set up here in the Discord. We're not going to be really using these tonight, unless you guys want to jump on and do a bit of practice. But as I said, tonight, there's a lot of theory behind it. So we just kind of have to, roll up the sleeves and sit down and wait. Hurry up and wait. It's an old army saying. But anyway, you'll see where I have these ground school documents. So you'll see part 1. And then if you scroll down, this is tonight's lesson, lesson number 2. And you'll see there's a whole load of stuff. What you're looking for is the virtual ATC school TTM part 2. And that could be print, means that it's a white background with black font. Or if it's just a PDF, it's what I'm using here tonight. So you can actually print this document off and just use it as a reference. It's designed to work as a PDF, a portable document file, PDF. See, I remember things, like the Man United losing to Liverpool last night 7-0. But have a download of that. Everything here is free. There's no cost to any of this stuff. It's a lot of it is available on the internet. Anyway, my job was to try and condense it all into one helpful little area for you guys. So hopefully it works. So that's the Discord. And be sure to ramble over there, click on the gadget, and then it'll come to this document. This is the document. Virtual ATC Ground School. It tells you all about it. There's, you can click on the links, anything down here on the left-hand side. When you click on it, it'll bring you to that page. And then we, further explain what the bits and bobs are. And then on the bottom left of the page, there's a little blue contents. Click on that, and it brings you back to the menu. Really handy. Yes, it took many, many hours of doing the thing, right? Doing the thing. So what we're going to do before we jump into this. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat based on what we were doing last week, which was a radio check Now, just to be clear on these, this is not the initial contact you would be making with ATC on VATSim. In fact, this rarely needs to happen. The only time you would want to do a radio check, if all your connections are working, you have verified your hardware is working, but for some reason you cannot hear the controller. Then you would say radio check, right? But the important thing here is what we learned last week. If you guys can see on this thingamajig, right? I'll disappear the keyed counter thing, right? If you can see on this, the pilot is, well, that's us, yeah? And this number of letters here, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, well, that's the call sign that I've chosen for my aeroplane. Echo India, because it's based in Ireland, and then Tango Tango Mike, two-tone Murphy. You can pick up whatever one you want to use. It's up to you, right? Just don't be an idiot. Know what I mean? So, what we did last week, this is the spiel we had to say. So it would have sounded something like this, and I'll try and do this so you can, so I'll start off and just have a listen. Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Ground. Pass your message.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Radio check 121.8.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Readability 5.
Readability 5 also. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Now, what that is, did the sounds work? Could you hear the change in my voice? Because if that doesn't work, I'm shagged. The whole thing doesn't work tonight. So is there a clear difference when I press a button and I sound like someone else, even though it's still me? Did it work now? Be honest, Yeah, it was Grant, right. And relax, right? Because if it goes kind of that direction, thanks, Fly Darren. Yeah, brilliant, right? Anyway, this is a radio check. There's no further communication required. There's no movements required on the ground or in the sim. Nothing. It's just a radio check. Now, as I said, this is not the initial contact you have with ATC. This is only there if there is an issue that you cannot hear the controller. And that's after you verify your own hardware and your own software. Okay? We did this lesson last week to try and break the nervousness or the anticipation with people of, oh, I don't know what to say or how to say it. So that's why we did all of these last week. We actually spent the night doing radio checks. And don't worry about saying things wrong or whatever. If you read exactly what's in front of you here, that's all you need to know for now. For now, we'll progress later on. You'll learn more things. You'll have other information you can put in here. But by and large, if you focus on what the pilot, or in the green, has to say, and then you listen or you prepare for what ATC or the blue is going to say, gives you a better understanding of the exchanging of information between both parties. Right, so with that said, we also explained about the readability scale. And what is a readability scale? So if I were to ask, if I was like this, you can't really hear it. So the controller will come back on and give it a low score. Readability 1 is nothing, or you can't hear it. Readability 2, it's readable every now and again. Readability 3, you're readable, but it's difficult to hear you. Readability 4 is okay. Readability 5, perfect. So that's the scale that we work off. And the last thing we focused on when it comes to talking, if there's any uncertainty in communication, if you're unsure what is being said to you, by spoken word, just ask them to say again. So in this case, it would be Shannon Tower, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, say again. And if you need to, say again slowly, because controllers are going to be busy. They've got a schedule. They've got a lot of people that want to get airborne, and they're going to be passing information fast. It's just the way it works, right? It's just the way it works. Now, what I want to do here, lads, because I didn't have this last week, so I'm going to add in a bit of background music. I hope you don't mind. Now, I don't know what this is going to be, but sure, listen, we'll throw it in and see what happens, right? And let me know how the old adieu is going to be. There's a bit of background music, right? So, what we're going to move on to tonight, charts. Charts? What are charts? What do we mean by charts? What do we need to know about charts. Now, again, with this information, we're not going to spend all tonight on it. This is purely to give you an introduction, to make these things familiar to you, so when we hear them again in later lessons and we actually spend specific time covering different charts, well, you're going to have that little bit of comfort zone. I know what this is. We've seen them before. All right? Charts are the thing that Katy Perry songs try to be on. Brilliant, right? Brilliant. Okay, so what we're going to do. Charts are one of the most important tools for pilots during a flight. Now, bring that down a smidgen. Does anyone know what a chart looks like without, asking the obvious? So last week we had a quick look. Where can you get charts from? The free ones and the payware services. But when it comes to charts, I'm sure you guys have used charts in your real world, yeah? So what we mean by a chart, well, we mean an aeronautical chart. So for example, also included with our stuff there tonight, and it's available on our Discord, well, these are charts. It's an aeronautical chart, essentially a map, and the map has some information, some instructions, and some references. Pretty much it, right? A chart. And we have many different charts, and we'll go through some of the different charts that we're going to use. We have charts that would be focused mainly with VFR or visual flight rules, and then you have charts that you would look for when it comes to IFR or instrument flight rules. All right. So this is all in the manual. You can read through it. We're currently on page 15, right? So you can read this in your own time, but we'll glance over these just so we're familiar. For VFR flights, we'll mostly use VFR charts of the respective region or country that you were flying together with, the VFR chart for the airport that you were flying to. Charts are available for free and are published by the respective country you are flying in. Every country also has a so-called AIP, or Aeronautical Information Publication. Like real VFR pilots, you can access or gain access to the AIP of a specific country via a simple Google search. AIP Ireland, for example, and that'll lead you down to the Irish Aviation Authority, and you'll get some of the information there. In fact, that's where I got these from. AIP Ireland. See up there on the very top left-hand corner of this little chart, it says AIP Ireland. So that's where we get the stuff from, right? And you can get them from any country. They're all similar. AIP. So, moving on. AIPs are separated into three different parts. We have general, which is general information related to the country we're flying in. They would have the en route information relating to the country, and they would have the aerodrome information specific to the aerodromes we're going to fly in and out of. Fair enough. There are a few different charts that we will have to use when we're flying in VFR. So we're going to need parking charts. Now, what do we mean by parking charts? Could we park up here now for the night and get a takeaway? Not really. A parking chart are going to be showing you where the different parking areas and taxiways are at a specific airport. So for example, I've added in Shannon parking. And this, again, it's an AIP chart showing Shannon Airport and where all the stands for the, the gates where people go in from, the cargo, and also where the general aviation or private parking is available. So in our case, this being the chart for Shannon, if we have a look down here, you'll see we're looking for the light aircraft parking, also known as general aviation parking. That's where we're going, okay? So we need to know where these things are and to give ourselves some information. The charts are one of the most important things you need to spend time when it comes to planning your flight. You need to look for the information, and later on, I'll be telling you what information you need to draw from these. But the important thing here is you need to be familiar with where you're flying from, through, and where you're going to land. You need to be familiar with that stuff. So that's where charts come into it, right? That music is a bit kind of heavy. Anyway, we also have ground movement charts. Charts was used for ground planning when planning your taxi route, for example, often known as a taxiway, which would be this one. This is an aerodrome chart for which on this we can clearly see where the taxiways are. They're all numbered, and we can have a look at these from Shannon. So we can see the runway up along here. We can see different letters, and there's X's and all this sort of jazz. I'll explain what all these mean shortly because we're going to be focusing on this now tonight. Then we have traffic circuit charts. Now, they're not always available or published for a specific airport. It depends on the aerodrome. Don't worry about that for now. Some airports will show you what the traffic circuit looks like. It'll show you this is where you take off, this is where you turn. They might put in visual reference points, all the sort of jazz, right? Hello there. Welcome in. Is it Louis or LSW? Welcome in, dude. Parking states, no Skodas allowed. Get out of that garden. There's always a Skoda allowed, right? They don't need parking. They have like chauffeur-driven services, right? Anyway, then we have departure and arrival charts. Charts used when flying VFR or entering or leaving the traffic circuit of an aerodrome via specific predetermined departure and arrival routes. Departure and arrival charts would also be used. Now, we spoke last week about using Navigraph. You know, you can use ChartFox. There's many different options, but just know this: for every flight that we are going to do, I'll make sure that I'll source the free charts for you, and I'll make them available on our Discord. Obviously, you know, I can't be sharing you other stuff from the likes of Navigraph. That's a paid service, so we'll just show you the freeware stuff, but we can do comparisons. They're pretty much all the same. When it comes to IFR or instrument flight rules, it's very common for pilots to use some sort of tool or an app that they have to access to all the different charts they might need during their flight. IFR situational awareness is even more important compared to VFR flight, and this means the use of charts is significantly increased. If you're flying IFR, which we will be at some stage, that's where you absolutely need charts, because the charts will show airways, waypoints, all the jazz. That's where you really need to focus. Hey, Wombat is here. 13 months, Wombat. Thank you very, very much indeed, man. Happy Monday. Hope you're well. So the IFR stuff, it's super important to be using charts. Now, for IFR charts, a lot of them are kind of separated into the following categories. You have reference charts. Now, a reference chart mostly used for providing the pilot with information regarding the procedures at and around the aerodrome. And they'd include things like noise abatement. Noise abatement, basically, if you're in a big heavy jet and poor El Nula lives down the road from the airport, well, you can't exactly be hitting it full afterburners. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, Nula will be on the phone saying, hey, cut it out, right? So some airports have noise abatement areas. We'll look at them in a couple of weeks' time, because if the aircraft knows that they have to comply with noise abatement, that'll change settings of the aircraft and all the sort of jazz. There's a whole load of stuff in there. And some of the modern airliners, it's all automated by the FMS. All right. Then we have the taxi and ground charts. This one speaks for itself. Just like what we see on the VFR, we can see where the taxi and the ground areas are noted. You also have SID, or a standard instrument departure. You've often heard maybe of a SID and a star. Well, climb via the SID, so that's the published chart for that particular departure. Or then you'll have the arrival, the star, which is a standard arrival chart. So one is for heading out of the aerodrome and one is for coming back in. And between the SID and the star, you would have an approach. An approach chart would start the initial approach fix to help you fly a stable and planned approach until you touch down or do a go around. So you'll fly the arrival in, then you'll have the approach. So far, so good. We then have airways, the low en route charts and the high en route charts. These are essentially to do with the type of aircraft you're flying, perhaps the distance you're going to fly. That means you either enter the low airway or en route or the high airway or en route. And that's what they mean by that. The low en route is respective up to 18,000 feet or flight level 180. And the high one is above 180 or 18,000 feet. All right, and that's kind of what they look like. You can see all of this in the manual, what they look like. Don't need to worry about any of these yet. We're not going to go near them. How do we use charts? Well, fairly straightforward, isn't it? During the planning phase of the flight, we should study the charts and we look at all the procedures that we're going to perform. We need to know what we're doing and where we're doing it. We have maps. We need to navigate. We need to figure out exactly where we're going to go and read the charts to see are there any warnings or information that's going to help us along the way. That's how we use our charts. When it comes to flying, if you have a second monitor, a phone, an iPad, even print them off. Keep your charts close at hand and study them. This is where a lot of people kind of make the mistake. They don't properly plan their flight. Remember the 7 Ps. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. The 7 Ps are vital. Prior planning and preparation. So you got to plan it in advance and, prepare for every eventuality. Okay? It's a huge mistake a lot of people make. They'll jump on and they'll say, hey, I want to go from LAX to, JFK. Let's just put it into the sim, call up ATC and nah, That you're gonna hit trouble, because ATC could ask you to go somewhere. You're like, where? What? I don't know about that. Or worse, they'll ring it and say you're violating a certain airspace. Here's a number, or go back to training. So you got to plan what you're doing. We will spend a lot of time when it comes to flight planning. We're going to be looking at charts. We're going to be looking at airspace. We'll spend a lot of time figuring out all of those things. So don't worry about this for now. All right. Anyway, moving on. ATIS. This is where the thing gets juicy. What is ATIS? Anyone know what an ATIS is, or what it even refers to? If we're talking about ATIS, what information are we talking about, or what information are we looking for? ATIS. It's a cool name, isn't it? It sounds like 80s, but essentially it's ATIS. Now, you often hear it in the sim. If you watch any YouTuber, you'll hear them say ATIS or contact ATIS, right? Hey, Mr. Hoppy is here. Good to see you. The 7Ps, I once saw them at Slane Castle. So an ATIS, aviation, right? So Airport Automated Terminal Information Service. That's what ATIS stands for. Automated Terminal Information Service. Terminal being the facility, and it's an information service, which is automated. The ATIS is a message to pilots recorded by air traffic controllers, and it broadcasts on a specific radio frequency, VHF. The message contains all the essential information about airport operations that a pilot might need to know. That's what ATIS is. And what information does it provide? Well, the terminal broadcast is standardized. Pilots can easily understand them no matter where they are operating. The necessary part of an ATIS are as follows: the name of the airport, the information letter or the identifier, information, the time of the weather observation in Zulu time. So in aviation, we use Zulu time, right? Where are we at now? Mr. Hoppy, you're looking well. Good to see you. Wind, direction and speed, visibility, precipitation, essentially, is it raining or is there snow? Cloud conditions, temperature and dew point, altimeter setting, instrument approaches in use, active runways, any noise abatement, any pertinent notices to airmen or NOTAMs, something like traffic restrictions, noise abatements, whatever it's going to be, precautionary statements, and then information letter at the end. How often is it updated? As in information, usually every hour. Usually every hour you'll get a new letter, right? Now, we have some examples of an ATIS. You're going to listen to them here now, and then we're going to be doing one in the sim. Now, there are some differences between an ATIS, an ASOS, and an AWOS. What, says you? Don't worry about it at the moment. If you read down through it, it explains what they are. But essentially, the ATIS is going to give you information about the terminal, about that facility. It'll tell you active runways, taxiway Bravo is closed because, ailerons into wind was Yaki Boo, and after he opened the Kraken. It'll give you all the information, right? Whereby the other ones are heavily kind of automated. So a non-towered or uncontrolled field would often monitor the ASOS or AWOS, right? Both systems are installed at most airports, even at towered airports, so you can listen in, right? So you have, where is this now I'm looking for? Murphy, you have so much writing. Now, ASOS stands for Automated Surface Observation System. AWOS means Automated Weather Observation System. Automated Weather Observation System. That's what they mean, or service or system. I've heard both being said. As per the book, it says system. A lot of people say service. Doesn't matter. Once you know ASOS, ASOS, or AWOS, AWOS. All right? Now, you also have something fancy in our modern age called DATIS, or digital ATIS. And we've actually seen this in some aircraft, especially when it comes to the GTN. You can click in on a little button and it gives you like this kind of a METAR, but it provides you with a letter of information. All right. So the digital ATIS system, it's where is it now? ATIS records are usually lightning speed by controllers and are in a hurry. Processing and remembering the pertinent details requires learning to write it down. Larger airports have begun using digital ATIS. For pilots, this means that the ATIS information is received on their cockpit instruments. It's in text form, and then they can refer to it if and when they need it. All right? So that's what we can do. Now, real-world ATIS example, we're going to have a listen to what a real world ATIS example is. Now, bearing in mind, this is going to be fast and you need to let it over your head for the moment because you may not be used to what information you want to pull from it. But I want you to have a listen to it and I want you to see if you can actually start taking out some information. So I want you to grab pen and paper and we're going to listen to this 3 times just to make sure that you can hear every little bit of it. Okay, are we ready? Pause your sim because I don't want the sim noise in, so bear with me. Pause that. Where's my book? Right, lads, are we ready? We're going to have a listen to this.
Airport information Lima, weather at 1700 Zulu, wind 150 at 5, visibility 20, ceiling 22,000 broken, temperature 22, dew point 5, altimeter 3028. Preferred runway 30. Runway 0422, closed due to construction. IFR clearance delivery is on frequency 121.8. On initial contact, inform Sudbury. You have ATIS, Lima.
Let's go again, because he speaks very fast, but a lot of them do. Information Bubba, absolutely. Hey, Scruffy Tam is here. Right, let's give it another go. Don't worry about what you can't hear or what you can't understand. Focus on what you do understand and just write it down and we'll see what happens. Right? Are you ready?
Airport information Lima, weather at 1700 Zulu, wind 150 at 5, visibility 20, ceiling 22,000 broken, temperature 22, dew point 5, altimeter 3028.
Okay, the first bit. Let's listen to this again. Now we have to be getting closer. Hey, Skeptic Anton is here.
Information Lima, weather at 1700 Zulu, wind 150 at 5, visibility 20, ceiling 22,000 broken, temperature 22, dew point 5, altimeter 3028.
Can anyone remember what information code he gave? Okay, so the very, very start of it is actually known as Sudbury Airport. Sudbury Airport information. Okay, so Lima, well done, because he says it fast. Now, he immediately goes on, and like, this is his job, so like, someone just needs to like, you know, hey, Johnny, slow it down just a small bit. But they don't have time. So the information code that they're giving us is information Lima, L. We go back to the phonetic alphabet, L, Lima, Lima, Lima. Okay, so we got to write down information Lima, okay? If we were going by the checklist, which is available, exclamation point checklist, this is made free for you guys. If we were going by that, you'll see the information that you can put in here. Departure ATIS, you can put in the letter. It goes in this box here. That's your information. Yeah, that's the start of it. Now, the next, slow it down, says Murph. Make up your own jokes. The next part, right? The next part, he talks about the weather. So information is Lima, but then he talks about the weather, right? Or he gives you a time. So we'll listen to it again, right? He says it really fast. Just bear with me.
Airport information Lima, weather at 1700 Zulu.
Weather 1700 Zulu. So he's telling you it's weather information and it's at 1700 Zulu. Anyone know what 1700 Zulu means? What is Zulu? It's time, isn't it? Zulu time. We go by Zulu time in aviation. Yeah? 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. 1700. All right? Now, listen in. He goes at 90 here.
Wind 150 at 5.
Wind 150 at 5. So we have wind 150 at 5. Okay?
Visibility 20.
Visibility 20. Now, there's slight differences between America and Europe. Don't worry at the moment. It's just about the information. Okay? So we hear visibility 20.
Ceiling 22,000 broken.
So ceiling, or cloud conditions, the ceiling is 22,000 feet broken. So the broken clouds, yeah?
Temperature 22, dew point 5.
Temperature 22, dew point 5. Okay, temperature's 22, dew point is 5, and then the altimeter or the QNH?
Altimeter 3028.
3028. So that's the altimeter. That's measured in inches of mercury. So let's read it back. What we've just pulled out of that METAR or that ATIS, I beg your pardon. Sudbury Airport information, Lima. Weather at 1700 Zulu, or 1700 Zulu. Wind 150 at 5 knots. Visibility 20. Ceiling 22,000 broken. Temperature 22. Dew point 5. Altimeter 3028. All right. So if this was in Europe, you'd be getting the local. It'd be in Q&H, so it'd be 1033 or something. But don't worry about all that for the moment. So that's what it sounds like. That's when you tune a frequency in. That's the information you're going to get, and that's based on that came out of the real world. We have some options for you that will slow it down and make it easier, and you can completely change things yourself. Well, we have it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's go in and have a listen. So, what I'm going to do, I'm parked in my little Cessna here. I'm going to turn on my battery, right? And I'm going to turn on my radio. And I'm going to...
Airport information, Hotel 09er.
Shh, wished. We're going to have a listen to this thing now, right? So there's some settings you need to do inside your sim to get this to work. And essentially what you need to do, you need to turn on the ATC voices and the ATC. So if you were to go into your menu, assistance options, you go down to user experience, and where it has ATC voices, turn that on. Yeah, just turn it on, and then make sure in your general options under sound that you have the voices turned on as well, and you can hear them. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go into the sim and we're going to have a listen to the simulator's ATIS. All right, and the reason we're doing this, they'll say it a little bit slower, and we can listen to it over and over again, and they do a relatively good job at this. All right, so are we ready? I'm on Shannon. I'm going to tune into 130.955. You ready?
Shannon Airport information, Hotel 09er 00 Zulu. Wind 063 at 4. Visibility 9er. Sky condition 4,800 feet, scattered 13,800 feet scattered. Temperature 8. Dew point 13. QNH 29er decimal 87. ILS runway 06 in use. Landing and departing runway 06. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact, you have hotel.
Okay, so it's basic. There's one or two things slightly wrong because the weather information in the sim is different, as in you can mess with it. Don't worry about that. The important things we've heard from that broadcast, the information. Who got the information? Did anyone get the information code, as it were? And yes, you won't be using this on VATSim. VATSim have their own ATIS systems. We're purely doing this for tonight only. You'll see later on when you click onto VATSim, yeah? Okay, so hotel, yeah? It was information hotel.
Shannon Airport information, Hotel 09er 00 Zulu.
09er 00 Zulu. It's based on weather at 9 o'clock in the morning, and according to the simulator, it's 0916. All right, fair enough. So that's the first bit. So that's the information, and that's the time. They then talk about the winds. They talk about the temperature, and so on and so on. So you can practice this inside the sim. If you don't know what the frequency is, you can turn on the ATC gadget. It'll show you where the frequencies are. Tune ATIS. And try it for different airports, just so you're used to listening to it. You can also see the information. If you do open this panel, you can see the text form. Yeah? So wind 063 at 4, visibility is 9 or 9,000, sky conditions 4,800 scattered, 13,800 scattered, temperature 8, dew point 13. That doesn't make sense because, well, we'd be frosted. QNH is wrong. So that's a glitch with Microsoft Flight Sim. QNH should be measured in hectopascals, but don't worry about that for now. It then tells us that the ILS runway 06 is in use, landing and departing runway 06, VFR aircraft say direction of flight, and then all aircraft read back instruction. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. Yeah, fairly straightforward. So, me poor taxi letters, okay? So we'll go back to that now after a while. So turn this off now for the gadget, right? Turn this off. So we continue on what we're reading through. And remember, if there's stuff going over your head, don't worry about it at all. We're going to spend lots of time working on these over the coming weeks. This is just to give you a general understanding or a general familiarity with this sort of stuff. Fair enough? So the next bit then is all to do with the ATIS abbreviations. So you'll see from the ATIS, or you'll be reading from a METAR, what this information is going to look like. I'm not going to read down through them, but you have a reference point here. So if you're looking at a METAR and it says, you know, PL on the side of it, what does PL mean? Pretty loud? You know, in this case, it's ice pellets. It's a type of weather phenomenon, yeah? But next, we will see altimeter 1012. Yeah, it has all this information there. So have a look at it. It's there for a reference. If you ever see something on a METAR, for sure you can jump back to this and say, hey, what does that mean? All right. Then you have other bits. There's other stuff here as well. These are all abbreviations of what's going to be visible on METARs or on an ATIS. Now, a METAR or a weather METAR can be a crucial asset to a pilot when flying. METAR stands for Meteorological Aerodrome Report. Fair enough. METARs give pilots the latest weather information for an aerodrome in a very special format. This way, pilots get all the information that they need in one single message. There's a slight difference between the format of a METAR between the US and Europe, and the main difference is the barometric pressure, QNH or altimeter. The below examples are going to show you a METAR for Shannon and then a METAR from Lake Tahoe. Okay? So let's have a look at this. There's a whole load of code here. What are we going to say? The first part is the airport identifier. Next, we have date and time. We have information about the winds and what they're doing. We have visibility. We have sky conditions. We have our temperature and dew point. And we have our QNH. And then it says no sig. No sig. Now, no sig is a code. We could scroll up here and find no sig, or a simple control and F will find it here as well. Yeah. So no sig means, where is it? Don't tell me I didn't put it in. Surely I put it in. Or it's further up. It's further up. Just type in no sig, you'll see it. No sig means no significant change. So the weather's not going to change in the next hour or two. That's what it means. All right. Now the next one, if you have a look, is for KTVL, which is Lake Tahoe. Again, can you see that? Again, it's going to show you the airport, the date and time, the type of report that it is, your stateside, it's automatic, what the wind is doing, what your visibility is doing, your sky conditions, which are all there, your temperature. Anyone know what M before the 08 means when it comes to temperature? The M. Any ideas? And then it finishes up with an altimeter of 2948. Yes, M means minus. It's -8 when this METAR was taken, right? Now, that's all wonderful, says you. How do we figure it out? Well, if you scroll underneath it, this diagram explains exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. Yeah, so you have all the information here. Just use it as a reference. This is a little decoder that you can use yourself. There's many, many tools online to do a full decode of a METAR. Even our own website does it. But spend a bit of time learning these things. Try and decode them yourselves, all right? So, for example, the top line, Shannon, this is Shannon Airport. It's on the first day of the month at 0930 Zulu. Winds 010 at 5 knots. Visibility is, 10 kilometers or, 9.9. Few clouds at 1500. Broken clouds at 33. Temperature 6, dew point 2. QNH 1036 with no significant change. In the United States, it would be Lake Tahoe on the first day at 0853 Zulu. Automated report. Winds 200 at 4 knots. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Broken at 3000. Broken at 4900. Overcast at 8000. Temperature -8. Dew point -9. Altimeter 2948. All right. So 080. But that's the breakdown of it. And you'll see it here. You'll see everything here, right? That should be 008. But you see everything here. This is how you decode it. All right. And again, it's all reference stuff. Now, moving on, a TAF A TAF? What do you mean by a TAF? A TAF is a terminal aerodrome forecast. It's a forecast. It's forecasting what might happen, right? So you don't take it verbatim. But if you're going to an airport and you want to read the TAF, what's the weather going to be doing when I get there? It's all well and good knowing what the weather is doing when you're departing. So if we're in Shannon and we get the weather for Cork, we'll say, Asher, the weather is fine in Cork. No, it's fine now. What's it going to be like when we get there? That's where TAF comes in. The forecast, terminal area forecast, or terminal aerodrome forecast. All right. They look very similar to what you would see from a METAR, but then they've added in extra letters. And then down here, it explains what they mean. So you have, for example, probability 30 or prob 030. That means there's a 30% chance or 30% probability temporarily, the date and time, the visibility, and then the clouds. So it's breaking it down to say, well, this is where you're at. This is the METAR, and this is what we think is going to happen at this time. And it'll say, this is what we think will happen at this time. It's a forecast, but it's done by text. All right. Predicted weather is very important. It's super important. You need to know what you're flying into. Now, as flight simmers, we can have total control over it. We can set the weather up if we want. We can go online and look at, windy.com or Venture Sky. We can get a decent understanding of it. In fact, if we were using SimBrief, that's going to do all this information for us. It'll provide us with all the stuff, and it does a good old job at decoding it as well. This is just for you guys to get an understanding. That's what a TAF looks like. So if you see something like that, you'll say, hey, that looks like a TAF. You won't be far off the mark. All right. And then we've already heard it, information. Each ATIS is given a letter to identify it. It makes sense because, for example, if the weather at 9 o'clock in the morning is raining, but then the weather at 6 o'clock in the afternoon is dry, well, how do the pilots know that by listening to the ATIS? How do we know they have the current weather? So they give it a letter, okay? So each ATIS is given a letter to identify it, and it's to make sure that you and ATC can confirm that we have the latest ATIS information. When ATC asks you to confirm information echo, and then the last ATIS you monitored, for example, was alpha, you know that there's been a change to the ATIS. You need to go back and listen to it. So if you listen to ATIS and you wrote down everything, I have information hotel, then you call up ATC and you hear information India is current. Oh, jeez. I have hotel. He's telling me it's India. That's where it goes back into. All right. When you're on VATSim, when you use vPilot, we'll go into more of this in a couple of weeks, but most of the frequencies or most of the airports that you start from, if they have ATC coverage, there'll more than likely be ATIS in there for you. They'll have this stuff here for you, and then you can listen in. Don't worry about that now for the moment. All right. Now, airspace. This is an absolute mad topic. We're not going to go through an awful lot of this tonight. And the reason being, lads, when it comes to airspace, there are subtle, there's some major changes, but there's differences between the United States and what we have in Europe. Essentially, what you need to know for now, if we're going to be flying by VFR, as in we're not flying a specific flight plan, we're not going from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint, we're just kind of flying as we want. We need to be aware of different types of airspace. We can't just ramble in for the crack. Different airspaces have different codes or class. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and so on, right? And each class has a different requirement. They have different altitude areas of activity. So you could go below an airspace or you could go above an airspace. That's provided you don't want to go through it. If you want to enter an airspace, well, then you need to get on the phone and ask, hey, ATC, can I transit the area? Can I go through this airspace? And you need to know as a pilot, if your aircraft has the proper equipment on board, that you can actually enter that area. We're not going to worry about this for now, but be very aware, different airspaces have different rules for entry. All right. Now, of the different airspaces, A, B, C, D, E, G, or Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Golf, when it comes to the UK and Europe, there's a subtle little change. The class Bravo or B is actually mixed in with class A or Alpha. We'll worry about this some other day, but there are a couple of differences with it. Okay. Now we have the flight rules and the pilot and equipment requirements. It's all noted for you here so you can have a read of it. When we're going to be doing our flight planning, we'll spend a lot of time on the airspaces so we fully understand each one. For now, it's just a nice to know. It's not heavily important for what we're doing tonight. All right? So don't be all like, Jesus. You'll see different examples here that are all printed off and how they're shown on a chart. You've seen charts. You've seen these before. You've seen these circles around airports. Well, that's what they're airspaces. You know there's something going on in there. You mightn't be able to get into it. And it goes all the way on and on and on. All right? Now, there are some other important things to watch. You have what's called special use airspace. Special use airspace or special airspace. It's not just your class Alpha or Charlie or Delta. You could have, for example, prohibited areas. You could have restricted areas, right? You often hear, anyone ever hear of a TFR? A TFR, right? In Ireland, for example, there are TFRs. There's one over Portlaoise over the prison. There's danger or warning areas. That would be the military operation areas over the Glen of Amal, right? So there's plenty of these even in Ireland that we can say, oh, hey, we're not allowed in there. Or if we are going in there, well, we need to know what's required if we go in there. And again, it all comes to our flight planning. So if we were going to plan a flight from A to B, and we're going to be transiting or flying through one of these airspaces, well, we need to know we have all the information needed that we can successfully do this flight. And because we're planning, we must plan if we don't get the access we want. If we're told, no, you are not allowed to enter, well, we got to make sure we have enough fuel on board that we fly around that airspace. That all comes into the flight planning. And it's pretty cool. It can be a lot of fun. All right. We'll worry about that again some other day. But these are all the different ones. Alert areas are there as well. Controlled firing areas. The names differ slightly in Europe. They mean the same thing. All right. Then we have all the conclusions. And then we talk about the differences of European airspace versus what they have over in the United States. And for this one, it says, see VF4 lesson 3. So again, back to your Discord, right? And if we have a look at what I've put up there, VF4 1.03 and lesson 3, I've put in, it's called the Skyway Code. This is awesome information. So the Skyway Code, it's 172 pages of stuff, but it's published by the Civil Aviation Authority, and it's version 3 of March 21. So I'm unsure, is there an update, but I don't think there is. Anyway, what this has here is all the UK FIR information, and a lot of this is the same in Europe, right? But for example, they cover airspace. So have a read down through it. But again, it's all nice to know. When we're going to be flying in, be it America or in Europe, it doesn't matter. We'll be applying all the airspace rules to our flights. This is just, get yourself used to it. So you see essential air rules, visual and instrument flight rules, airspace classifications, airspace hazard and restrictions, so on and so on and so on. So, you know, it's time to scroll down there to about page 52, which is, give it a second to think about life for a moment. It's a skyway to hell, indeed. Hey, old veteran is here. Good to see you. Welcome in. So the airspace. Okay, well, essential rules of the air. As a pilot in command, you are responsible for ensuring your aircraft remains in compliance with the rules of the air. Fair enough, makes total sense. And then we have, you know, the ESAA regulations, and then you have the CAA. It's like UK and Europe. They're very, very similar. So we'll just figure out the UK ones. Essential rules. You know, I love this. Negligent or reckless operation, and it just happened to show an airplane flying underneath a bridge, which, you know, that's our thing. Essential rules of the air, you know, maintaining distance. Another way of maintaining distance is called separation. All right. And it goes on, and it'll tell you all about it. Then it'll talk about the classification system, class Alpha, Charlie, so on and so on and so on. It's all there in this information. Okay. And you'll see it here. One thing you'll notice straight away: controlled airspace, Alpha, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Golf. There is no Bravo. Huh? What do you mean there is no Bravo? What did they do to it? Bravo is sound, right? Bravo in the UK and Europe, it tends to be amalgamated into one control area. That's where you have the differences on the US versus Europe. But like everything, when it comes to planning your flight, Where am I flying? What region am I going to fly in? I will use these charts because these are my airspaces, or I'll use these charts because these are my airspaces. All right? We'd never do that. Not at all. We'd never do that. So that whole document is available. It's freely available online, and the link is in our Discord. Go ahead, grab it, spend a bit of time reading it. It's not essential yet. Okay. You might ask, why do we have different classes of airspace? Because if we didn't, we wouldn't have had that to talk about for the last 20 minutes. But you will be aware that if you have looked up into the sky, that there are many different users of the airspace above us. Commercial aircraft, general aviation, military, and so on. The primary of airspace is to provide an environment where all of the different users can complete their flights in a safe and efficient way with as few restrictions as possible. Fair enough. How does the airspace classification affect me as a pilot? Whilst the 7 different classes of airspace detailed above may seem complicated at a first glance, the first thing to highlight is that whilst each class is identified by ICAO, each individual country is largely at liberty to determine what classes of airspace that they use and where did they use it. All right. As a pilot, what is the most important consideration? Am I in controlled or uncontrolled airspace? That's probably the most important thing we're going to check on every flight. Are we flying in a controlled or uncontrolled airspace? Do I need clearance to enter? And who is responsible for separation? But again, when it comes to our flight planning, we'll figure out all this out. I highly recommend you check out the Learning Center on VATSim. It explains all the differences you need to know when it comes to operating online flights between the US and Europe. VATSim has all this information for us. So I saw a lot of you guys come back to me to say, hey Murph, I passed my orientation test on VATSim. Brilliant. What you need to do, log into your VATSim, head on over to their Learning Center, go into aviation knowledge, airspace classes, and then check out the ICAO or UK airspace. Most of the information is in there anyway. And it's readily available on VATSim. They have a ton of little videos up there as well to make life a little bit easier. All right. So we're getting on, lads. We're doing well. Did anyone write down anything yet? Are you taking notes? Is there anything else to talk about? What's the weather? Oh, we did the weather. Anyway, we move on. Ground operations. Now we're getting close. We're getting very close, right? Bridges built by the Romans. I've drawn a doodle. Man, Matty. Yeah, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. Ground operations. What do we mean by this? Well, what's on the airport? What facilities do we have available to us as pilots? So we're going to start off with ATC stations. Stations. Attention, attention, all stations. What we have at ATC, we have delivery or clearance delivery. It's called clearance delivery. You have tower, approach, departure, and information services. Okay. Ground tends to live in there as well. But for the main stations, that's where we're going to be looking at. Delivery will issue flight plan clearances before aircraft taxi. Fair enough. Tower control is responsible for controlling the aircraft within the airspace of the airport. So you could have a ground frequency and then a tower. At some of the larger, way larger, you could have ramp frequency, ground frequency, and then the tower. You have all these, right? You have loads of different ones, but don't worry about it. In essence, you have the people who control the clearance, the ground, the tower, the approach, and then you have information services then as well. These will all be listed out in VATSim. There's a bit of a read down through them, what each kind of station does, what are they responsible for, all right? So again, it's nice to know. It's not essential right now. It's nice to know. We'll be telling you at each lesson who we are talking to, who is online. We'll do all of that. All of that will be done for you. You don't need to think about it, all right? So next up, the traffic circuit. This is vitally important because this is what we're going to do tonight. Well, this is what I'm going to do tonight, but you guys need to be tuned in and watching, right? The traffic circuit is a standard path followed by aircraft when taking off or landing. At an airport, the circuit is a standard path for coordinating the air traffic. Patterns are usually employed at small general aviation airfields and military bases. Most large airports avoid the system unless there's GA activity, as well as commercial flights. Okay. Traffic patterns can be defined as left hand or right hand, according to which way the turns in the pattern lie. However, the international standard for circuits is a left hand circuit at a standard altitude of 1,000 feet above the ground. That's the most common, 1,000 feet above the ground. Fair enough. This is because most small airplanes are piloted from the left seat. Makes sense, right? Right-hand patterns could be set up for parallel runways and also for noise abatement, or because of the ground features, such as a terrain, a chimney, a tower, and all that. And then we talk about, well, helicopters can use the circuit, but are not required to do so. We'll worry about choppers some other day, as I see Epic Fool rolling up his sleeves. He's going to be talking about it, right? Ewald says, and in Munich you can have 3 ground, 3 deliveries, 2 towers and 5 approaches. There you go. That's what it's all about. It all depends what's there. Now, lads, the traffic pattern, this is important. What we're going to do, you can see it here. We're going to be taking off into the wind. We fly against the wind. And when we take off, we will be turning left. Now, here is the rule of thumb, and it's not exacting, but this is what we're going to train on just to get ourselves used to things. We're going to take off. We're going to climb straight until we get to 500 feet. At 500 feet, we turn left. This is known as the crosswind because we're going across the way, right? From 500 feet, we turn left and we keep climbing till we get to 1,000 feet, and then we turn left again. This is known as the downwind. Yeah, we're downwind. And if we look out to the left, well, you'll see the runway. Okay, we're parallel to the runway. Once we pass the runway and we're roughly at a 45-degree angle from our left shoulder to the start of the runway we want to land on, we will turn left, which is called the base leg. And at that, we're going to descend from 1,000 to 500 feet. We'll start our descent at the base leg. Then, once we get ourselves lined up at the runway, we turn left onto final, and we do our final descent until we either do a landing, a go around, a short pass, it doesn't matter, but that's what we do. Now, I'll give a full demonstration of this now in a few minutes. So, just for rule of thumb, take off, climb to 500 feet, then turn left. Continue your climb until you get to 1,000 feet and turn left again. So it's going to be take off, turn left 90 degrees, get to 1,000 feet, turn left 90 degrees until the runway is at 45-degree angle, turn left 90 degrees, descend, and then turn left 90 degrees until the runway is dead ahead. That is, in its absolute basic form, a circuit. It's a circuit around the runway, all right? Sorry, Murph, I've missed the last hour and 20 minutes. Can you start again? Right now, I can. Skep says, Murph, right now, I'm on the road. I can only watch in 160, so your radar separation will be 5 nautical miles. Brilliant. Skep, welcome in. I was telling everyone that I was wrecking your head yesterday, getting all the information. But many, many thanks, Skep. You'll see it now after a while. But that's the traffic pattern. Now, rather than, assuming everyone knows what a traffic circuit or how to fly a circuit and what are the tips for flying a circuit, right? Rather than assuming everyone already knows how to do that, here is a link. I want you to click on said link, and that's going to teach you an awful lot of cool stuff when it comes to flying a circuit. Okay? This is all stuff that's available online, but have a little read of it. Save that link, throw it into your favorites, and have a read of it tomorrow, the next day, or next week, or whatever. All right? Next week, we're going to be doing the practical part of this lesson. We probably won't get as far as doing the actual circuit next week, so don't worry. If all of everything I'm doing tonight is going over your head at a rate of knots, don't worry. This is only a talk along. It's so next week when we're starting to do some of the stuff, a little light bulb. Yeah, I heard that last week. All right? So don't worry if you feel that things are going too fast. Everything's grand. It's still only us here. And, when we get into the practical parts, we'll have a lot more time to walk you and talk you through everything. All right? So have a look at that link and check it out. We continue. Each leg of the pattern has a particular name. The departure leg, sometimes it's called the upwind. Look at this. Bengal Cat is here for 20 months. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers, cheers. Tasty beverage. So your departure leg. Then you have your crosswind leg. That is the first short side after the first turn. The first turn. Your downwind, your base leg, and then your final. That's all that's in the circuit. They are the patterns. Each of them have a name. All right? The next bit, again, don't worry about learning this verbatim tonight. It's just to give you an idea of why we do things the way we do things. Your startup. It's common for VFR aircraft to request a startup instead of a clearance. Now, over in America, you don't need to request a startup. You do have to request a taxi, but generally you don't have to request a startup. Okay? Over in Europe, we request a startup. Both are similar as they give pilots permission to start a flight. VFR aircraft, usually small general aviation, do not have a pushback. You're not going to get the big massive tow truck pushing the front of your little Cessna, right? The startup clearance, also as the name suggests, give them permission to start the engine. When the engine is started and everything on board is ready to go, you must switch to either tower or ground for your taxi clearance. We'll go through all of this after, all right? So in our case, we'll have to call up and say, hey, can we start? Okay? I think startups are clarified in some airport AIPs too. Yes, they are, Matty. Again, what Matty has said is the most important thing. It depends on the airport. The importance for us, right, or the responsibility we'll have to have, we got to read the information, right? Some airport on the AIP, they'll tell you, contact tower for startup, or request startup, or do not start without permission. They'll have information like that. Or other ones will be initial contact for taxi clearance. It depends on the airport. But for our lesson tonight, and just to drill this in, we need permission to start the engine. Just for this, okay? And then we'll get through it. And again, we'll know all of this long in advance when we're doing our flight planning, all right? So we continue on. So this is the startup. Moving on then, what VATSim do? I thought this is important to throw it in here. Be sure to check the charts to see if there's any requirements are stated. The textual data sections have a wealth of relevant information, and it's always good to review those pages prior to starting. Even if you're familiar with the area, read the charts to see if there's any requirements. That's exactly what the lads are saying. It depends on the airport. Some airports want you to request a start, others don't need it. So we got to read the charts. Fair enough? Sometimes smaller airports do not have a ground frequency, but instead the tower controller controls the small number of taxi routes that are present. The same goes with VATSim. They operate a top-down system, meaning that unless a ground or delivery frequency is online, ATC will be controlled by the tower. If there's no tower online, it moves up to the next category. It's known as a top-down. And I've put in the little grid. This is what VATSim work off. So the center, approach, tower, ground, clearance. Again, it's a nice to know. You need to know who you're going to be talking to, who you're going to call, right? When you jump onto VATSim, you're on the ground at Shannon and you don't see a tower. But there is, Shannon Center. Well, can I talk to them? So we'll figure out all of that as well. All right. Next up, we talk about taxiing. Communication is crucial to the safety of flight during a taxi. So we talk about what happens when we taxi, right? And there's a couple of interesting things here. We might hear slightly different things. For example, details such as livery and aircraft type are given to aid identification. A conditional taxi clearance allows the aircraft to taxi only after another action has taken place. An example you might hear would be give way to the Shamrock A320 left to right. When passed, taxi to holding point Alpha. So if you were taxiing, you're moving, and then another aircraft is there, ATC will jump on the phone and say, hey, give way to that Shamrock Aer Lingus, give way to the big red bus. They'll use this sort of phraseology. Just be aware of that. Then we talk about our takeoff, how we're going to take off. Then we have information about our circuit flying. Yeah. And then we have, it's then you're coming into land. So what we're going to do, we're going to put all of this together. I'm going to do this section 3 times. And this is where we need absolute focus, because this is what we're going to start working on ourselves next week. We probably won't get it all done. We'll do it in smaller sections, so we're all able to work together. Okay. So putting it all together. So we arrive at our first real challenge. Our objective is to fly 3 circuits around Shannon under the control of air traffic, or ATC. To give a clear overview, I will break down each stage and include the phraseology needed to know what to say and to understand the response from ATC. Okay? So, no Aer Lingus rather than Shamrock. Either or. Giveaway, yeah. So, this is what we're going to learn for tonight. And then next Monday, we're going to start practicing some of the stages. There are 10 stages to this flight. 10 stages. Sounds like there's a lot, but it's not really bad. All we're doing, we're going to start on the ground, we're going to talk to ATC, We're going to start the airplane. We're going to taxi, take off, fly 3 circuits, and land. And then taxi back. That's all we're doing. Sounds fairly straightforward. There are 10 stages to this. All right? How are we all doing so far? Good. We're getting there, right? We're getting there. Now, what's happening there in my sim? Because we're doing this in the sim momentarily. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk through each point. Then, I'm going to do a demonstration of it in the aircraft, and I'll pause at each section. And then the third time round, I'll do it from start to finish. Okay? So this part of the video, or this part, well, if you're watching this as a video, this is the part we need to concentrate on. All right? Hey, Noted is here. Good to see you. Right, here we go. Everything else that we've just learned on so far, purely for nice to know stuff for now. There's nothing there that you need to learn off verbatim. This is what we need to learn off. So let's see what we do here. Before we start, have a look at the previous lesson. We've already done that tonight. So stage 1, we need to obtain the ATIS. We complete our pre-flight checks and then turn on the battery and the radios using the inbuilt ATC from Microsoft Flight Simulator. And we've already shown you that, but we'll do it again. Then we're going to tune into Shannon Airport's ATIS on 130.955. We will take note of the information letter, the weather, the active runway, and the Q&H, along with any other instructions that are important. So we need to do that first. Once we have all that information, now it's time to call Shannon Ground and transmit the following. Now, the details that are in this page or on this page, they will differ depending on your call sign and also the weather, the information and the weather that you're going to hear. So I've highlighted them here so you know what the crack is, right? So we will start off like this. Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango, Mike. Now in your case, that could be Shannon Ground, Uniform Romeo, Mike, Alpha, right? Or whatever one you go with. So our message is Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango, Mike. Shannon Ground will respond.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Ground, pass your message.
Nice. Now we got to tell them who are we, where are we, what do we have, and what do we want. So we'll start. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike is a Cessna 172 at the General Aviation Parking with information Bravo, request VA4 circuits and engine start. Now, let's just pause on that for the moment. What are we talking about here? Well, we have our call sign. I've just spoken and told him our call sign. He knows that, yeah? We don't repeat back the Shannon Ground part. Thank you, Skep. We're telling him it's us. We're flying in a Cessna 172. We're over at the General Aviation Parking. We have information Bravo from the ATIS that we just listened to. And we request VA4 circuits and an engine start. So we're looking for a startup, yeah? But we're making our intentions known. We want to go flying a circuit, please. So that's what it is. So that's what we have transmitted. We have asked them the following, in which ATC will respond.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, you are approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk 7000, active runway is 06, Q&H 1011, call for taxi.
Okay. So ATC, they've addressed us. We've requested VA4 circuits and engine start, and they have told us you are approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk 7000 or VA4, so they want to see us on radar. Active runway is 06. The Q&H is 1011, and we need to call them for a taxi. All right? What version document is that? The one you looked at, Skep. Right, so that's what they've said to us. This is what we repeat. English Murph, we repeat this. So we'll say, approved for VA4 circuits and engine start, squawk 7000, active runway is 06, Q&H 1011. That's it. We don't need to say, we'll call for taxi. We could say Wilco, but we know we have to call him back for a taxi, so we pretty much leave it there. Yeah? So just to run over this again, it's to break it down and make it simple. We're on Shannon Ground, so we want to contact Shannon Ground. Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. ATC will say, this is Shannon Ground, pass your message. We're a Cessna 172. We're parked over at the General Aviation Parking. We have information Bravo from the weather. We request VA4 circuits and an engine start. they'll come back and say, yeah, okay, you are approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. They want us to squawk this for whatever reason. That's what we squawk. And then active runway is 06, QNH 1011, and then call for taxi. This information is specific for Shannon. That's why we're doing it at Shannon. ATC, if you go for a different airfield and ATC at this stage don't ask you to squawk a transponder code, it's fine. But specifically for Shannon, this is what they do. That's the way we're doing it. All right. Anyway, we'll say we're approved for VA4 circuits and engine starts, and that's it. We now progress to stage 3. This is where we start up our engine, start up the airplane. So we're going to start up the aircraft, check our temperatures and pressures. We go through our normal checklists, and when we're ready to taxi, we remain on Shannon ground, and we're going to transmit the following, right? Is QNH the barrel pressure? Yes. QNH 1011. So we're using hectopascals over here. And they tend to do, they repeat that quite a lot in Europe. Altimeter you probably get in the US. They'll say, altimeter 29 or 9 or 6 or whatever. All right. So the startup. So we start up our aircraft. We're now ready to taxi. So we jump on to the radio, press the button, and we'll say, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, General Aviation Parking, ready to taxi.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, taxi via the apron, Alpha, hold short, runway 06.
Okay. They've told us taxi via the apron and Alpha and hold short runway 06. Fair enough. We'll respond. Taxi via the apron and Alpha and hold short runway 06. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. That's it. Now, at this stage, we need to know, obviously, where the apron is, where Alpha is, and where the hold short is. We need to know all of this. Can anyone tell me how we're going to find that? Who's this? Pasty, welcome in. Many thanks for the follow. Many thanks for the follow. Where are we going to find the information? Where is the apron? Where is Alpha? And where is the hold short runway? Where do we get the information? From the chart. So we need to have a look at the chart. Here's the airport chart. Here's the parking chart. This is starting to make sense because we need all of this information before we go. So we're at the light aircraft parking or general aviation parking. Empire Kicking, welcome in, dude. Many thanks for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. Hope you guys are all keeping well. So we're at the light aircraft parking. They're telling us that we're going to be using runway 06. If we have a look, well, here's runway 06 down here. There's runway 06. So if we're over here, we need to get over this direction. Okay? So they said use the apron and then Alpha. Well, here's Alpha. We can clearly see the A. That's Alpha. And if we have a look here, it says taxiway Alpha. We can see where Alpha is. All right? If you're finding that chart a little bit hard to read or understand, don't forget you can use Volanta. And if you have Navigraph, you can use Navigraph. So we're at the parking point. We're going to taxi via the apron. This is all the apron. So we got to go by the apron to get to Alpha. There is no other way we can get to Alpha without going up this way. And this way means we would have been told, use Hotel, Delta, Charlie, back taxi on the main runway. And they're just not going to do that. Because why put you... They're just not going to do that. So taxi via the apron to Alpha, hold short, and you can see this line here. Anyone see that line? We'll get into more about airport markings and information. But if you look on this chart, or indeed if you look on this chart, you can see just before you get to the runway, there's these dots and this bar. And if you're unsure what they are, well, have a look at the chart. It'll tell you. So you have dots and then you have the bar. Runway holding position markings or a stop bar. That's the hold short. We got to stop before we get to the runway. Do you all right? All right. Moving on. Where's my button? Moving on. So that's the taxiway sorted. So what happens next? Now, stage 4. Well, we got a taxi. We're going to taxi now. So with our instruction noted, you write this information down so you know what you're doing. We then check our charts and we start our taxi to the runway. In this case, we must taxi via the apron. Then we go Alpha and we hold short runway 06. And I've just added in a couple of helpful notes on taxiing, just to help you along. Remember, your beacon, your nav, and your taxi lights need to be on. Check for other aircraft or people before moving off. Start an initial roll and then test your brakes. That's part of your startup checks anyway with the aircraft. You have to make sure the brakes are working. Keep an eye out for other traffic, all traffic, and make sure you maintain a safe distance. Okay? And then your taxiing speed, this is important, similar to that of a brisk walk, about 4 to 6 knots. Don't do 150 miles an hour. Taxi around 4 to 6 knots, a brief walk or a brisk walk. Don't crawl. Depends on the aircraft, but a brisk walk. All right. Don't forget your run-up checks before going to the whole short line. You need to do your run-up checks. Some airports will actually show you on the chart where you can do your run-up checks. They'll actually have a box, an area. That's where you go to do your run-up. And other airports, they don't. Generally, you want to be turned into the wind to do a run-up. But again, you got to keep aware of the traffic around you. Fair enough? So let's say now we've just taxied and we're now holding short of the active runway. We are at the hold short for runway 06 on taxiway Alpha. This is what happens from here. Are we ready? So we'll say Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, contact tower on 118.7.
Over to tower on 118.7. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. We've just been handed over from ground and now they're telling us to talk to the tower. Right. If you think 6 knots, well, 4 to 6 knots, about 4 knots. What's that? It's about 8 miles an hour? Something like that. It's, you know what I mean? What's it? 1.15 miles. Maybe they have very long legs. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, our departure. We've now gotten handed over to tower. Okay? So we got to change the frequency of our radio because we got to go from the ground frequency to the tower frequency. So we tune in 118.7. We're going to contact Shannon Tower. Are we ready? So Shannon Tower, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha, ready to copy.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, hold position. After departure, runway 06, you are cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet via 4, QNH 1011.
Now at this stage we're saying, Jesus, that's a bit of information, but we're getting our takeoff clearance. So the first bit the controller told us was hold position. And the reason they're telling you to hold your position, because this is not clear to take off. This is instruction. So they say hold position. Okay. After departure of runway 06, we are cleared for left-hand circuits, but don't go above 1,500 feet via 4. And then we get the Q and H again. All right. Fair enough. We need to go back to them. Hold position. After departure, runway 06, cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet via 4, QNH 1011, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Okay, now it's up to the tower.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, correct. Surface winds 060 at 5 knots. Runway 06, cleared for takeoff and report downwind.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 06, report downwind, Echo India, Tango, Tango, Mike. It's the conversation happening between the two of us. You will note they say surface wind, or they might just say winds. It doesn't matter. They're giving you the winds. What's important here is we don't read the winds back. We don't roger. We don't say how are you. We say nothing. We say exactly what this says here, and that's going to get us enough to get this done. All right? You'll never get that in the US. No, you absolutely won't. This is very different phraseology than what you get in the US. But they're still achieving the same things. All right? So we're cleared for runway and we'll report downwind. What do they mean by that? Can anyone guess? What do they want us to report on downwind? You know, do we have to write a report when we get downwind, or what is the controller asking us to do? So he's saying report downwind, right? At what stage are we going to be talking to him? Again, if we have a look here, hope you divil you. They want us to report downwind. Any idea? So when we take off, we're approved for a left-hand circuit, and he says report downwind. Correct. Once we arrive on the downwing or the downwind leg, yeah, the stage of flying downwind, that's when we're going to talk to that controller again. We're going to call them. We're going to report back, hey, this is where I'm at. That's what they mean by that, okay? If they were to say report on crosswind, well, we'd have to talk to them on crosswind, right? A lot of the time, controllers, they'll say report on downwind, but not all of the time. Hence, you need to just make sure you're reading back the instruction that you were given and you understand it, all right? So we continue on. We're getting close here now, lads. We're getting close. So that's the departure. For this lesson, we're going to do 3 circuits. 3 circuits. That means 3 complete circuits. The first circuit we do, we're going to do a touch and go. Then the second circuit, we'll do another touch and go. And then for a final one, we're going to do a full stop landing. We need to report back to ATC once we get to the downwind leg. So once we're on the downwind leg, we're going to call up Shannon Tower and transmit the following. So let's say, for example, now we've taken off, we've turned left at 500, we've turned left again at 1,000 feet, and we're flying along the downwind at 1,000 feet. We'll talk to ATC. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, downwind for runway 06, touch and go. What's important about this? We've now told ATC where we are, and we've also made our intentions clear. We want to do a touch and go. Okay?
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Roger, report final. Runway 06, number 1.
What the hell does that mean? Okay, well, he's talking to us because we can see our call sign. He said, Roger, Roger. Report final. Okay, well, we have an idea what that means. We know what the final leg looks like. So he wants us to report on final. Here's the base. Here's final. So, okay, we got to talk to him on final. Yeah, that makes sense? Any idea what he means by number 1? Are we his number 1 friend? Are we, Riker? What do they mean by number 1? And they won't always say this, by the way. It could be number 2. It could be no one, right? That's his favorite number. Yeah. First to land. Number 1 for landing. Yes. The answer there is number 1. He's giving you this information. You are number 1 for landing, or you are number 1. The reason you're saying number 1, it's just you out there. There's no one ahead of you. You don't need to keep an eye on other people. He could say, for example, number 2, caution the Piper PA-28 on final. Report them in sight, or follow the Piper on final. We're number 2, he's number 1. That's why they're doing it. I'm just throwing it in there because when you go to a controlled airfield, chances are there will be other traffic there. But don't worry about it for now. We don't need to say, Roger, number 1. This is just letting us know we're number 1 for this touch and go. There's no one ahead of us. That's what they mean by that. Is that fair enough? Yeah, okay. So they're going to say report final, we're number 1. We'll go back and say report final, runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. So stage 7, we continue until we turn on final, then we transmit the following. So we've turned left base. Now we're going to turn final, and now we're going to start talking again. Echo India Tango Tango Mike on final for runway 06, touch and go.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, cleared touch and go, wind 050, 4 knots, report downwind.
Okay, he's given us a lot of information here once again, but he hasn't really. Our call sign, the active runway, we are cleared for a touch and go. Remember, we're cleared now. We have our clearance. He's giving us information about the wind. It could be surface wind 050 4 knots or wind 050 at 4 knots. Either way, they're just letting us know what the wind is doing. So we now know, the wind is doing this. Fair enough? Report downwind. Nice. So the next communication we're going to have with this guy is when we do another circuit and we end up back on the downwind. Okay? moving on. We continue until we turn final. That's grand. We complete a touch and go and climb at the runway heading. Then as we turn left at 500 feet across the crosswind and then left again onto the downwind, it's time to call up Shannon Tower because we're again at the downwind. Stage 8 is exactly like stage 7. And the reason why I've doubled it up is to make you more familiar with it. We're doing the same thing again. We've just done it. We're going to do it again. Fair enough? Now, there might be subtle differences. He could say you're number 1. You could be number 2 now if someone else went flying. The wind could change. Doesn't really matter. But it's the same crack again. So we're now flying downwind and we're going to jump on and say, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Downwind for runway 06. Touch and go. We're on the downwind to runway 06 and we want to state our intentions. Okay?
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Roger. Report final, runway 06, number 1.
Report final, runway 06, Echo India, Tango, Tango, Mike. Same crack again. We continue until we turn on final. Once we're on final, we jump back on. Echo India, Tango, Tango, Mike is on final, runway 06, touch and go.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, cleared, touch and go. Wind 050 at 4 knots. Report downwind.
Cleared, touch and go, runway 06, report downwind, Echo India, Tango, Tango, Mike. All right. News fan, many thanks for DCS Ducks. Many thanks, dude, for the gifted sub. So, stage 9. This is where it starts getting fun. Stage 9, we've completed our second touch and go, and we climbed the runway heading, then turning left on crosswind at 500, left again at 1,000 to be on the downwind. This is the third time we're going to talk to Shannon. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, downwind for runway 06, full stop. We want to land. Now, we don't say to land. We want a full stop landing. It's just for the locality that we're at. Different airports, different controllers. And how you kind of figure all this out, just listen before you do anything. Someone's going to say something. All right, so don't worry about the words. If you say this, the controller will know 100% what you mean. That's why I've typed this. That's why it's color-coded. That's why I want you guys to do exactly this. All right?
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Roger, report final, runway 06, number 1.
Okay, this sounds familiar. Report final, runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Now, I've put in number 1. And the only reason I've put in number 1, if we were... if there was another aircraft that we can see on a final, or we can see another aircraft way off in the distance, say like a 737, but we're number 1, we're just reaffirming number 1. It's not a must to do. It's good sound advice because you want to land now. Remember that you're landing. Yeah. So we repeat it there. Anyway, we continue on until we turn on final. We're now on final, and we'll say Echo India Tango Tango Mike on final, runway 06, full stop. Again, we're repeating what we want to do.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, clear to land, wind 060, 7 knots.
Clear to land, runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Okay? Okay. We're now at stage 10. Stage 10, collect underpants. Stage 11, profit. Stage 10, once landed, we need to exit the runway and make our way back to the apron. So we're done. We're done. We now need to get off the runway and get back to our parking, talk to Nora, and have an El Canna Lilt and a Twix, right? For this lesson, we're going to vacate the runway and taxiway Charlie. And I want to show you why this is important. If we have a look at the airport chart, and I want you guys to kind of work on a little flow. Can I draw on this or highlight? I can draw. We'll go red. Thickness. Yes. Oh, balls. How do you get rid of that, lads? There's no undo button. Right, okay, anyway. Change underwear. What we're going to do, if you look at it, we're going to taxi. I'll do different colors here to make life easy. So we're going to taxi from here, right? We're going to taxi out this way, and we're going to depart that way. We're in a Cessna 172, by the way. We do not need 4,000 feet of runway to get airborne. So there's no need for us to back taxi. We're just wasting everyone's time. Every airport will differ depending on the runway length available. So we're not, we can do pretty much straight departures. We don't need to back taxi here. Our Cessna 172 will be airborne within minutes. Okay? So our departure is going to look something like that.
10-4, good buddy.
In the green. Okay? Jeffrey B. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Man, Jeffrey. Thank you very, very much indeed. Cold Nebo, correct. It'd be told to us as intersection departure approved, or direct or straight departure or whatever. They'll tell you can depart from there. All right, we won't worry about it just now. Just take off in the taxiway. Yeah. Cold Nebo, thanks for the bits. There's things happening. Raid Flights, many thanks for the follow. Welcome in. So our departure, we are going on Alpha and then up the runway. When we arrive, lads, on our way home, we're going to come in runway 6, yeah? But we're not going to turn right on Alpha. Why is that? Why are we not going to turn right on Alpha? Well, we want to give ourselves plenty of room because there's going to be many of us, yeah? So we're going to taxi all the way on the runway and we're going to exit at Charlie. Here's Charlie up here. So if you look at the grid, we're going to be cleared by ATC to use taxiway Charlie, Delta, and back into our parking here. So if you look at that flow, it means all traffic departing will be on the Alpha or on the green, and all traffic arriving are going to be coming in on the red or on the Charlie. It just means there's a one-way system in place to avoid any sort of confusion. Is that fair enough? Are we there so far? Right. Here's the gas thing. You might ask the question, Murph, what would you do if you were taxiing on the runway and there was an aircraft taxiing the opposite direction? Or if you were taxiing not even on a runway, let's say you're on a very wide taxiway, what do you do? Or what if someone makes a wrong turn and suddenly you're both heading toward each other?
Hello there.
What would you do apart from panic? Which we're not supposed to panic, right? What would you do? Hello there. Old Greg, many thanks for the follow. Welcome in. There's actually a procedure for this. Panic and Alt 4. So Memphis Stone says stop. You can stop, but you don't just stop. A game of chicken. Call the tug. Oh, we'll find out together. Now, let's see. Where did I have this one? I want to show you this. It's important. It's importanage. Oh, it's over here, look. Is it? Where did I put this now? I love your answers, by the way, guys. I absolutely love them. Now, let's see. I hid it here. Oh wait, it's in the other thing. I4 no, parking no. Where's the other thing gone? I had it there a second ago. It's over here. What we need to do.
Hello there.
Oh, hello there. Get out and run. Who is this? How's it looking? Good to see you. First fight the other plane pilots. Yeah. It's always pilot hour. I want to show you the actual thing of what to do because I don't want to give you the wrong information. And you said, but sure, Your Honor, Murphy told me what to do here, right? Taxi guidelines for oncoming traffic. You do stop, but you both turn in your respective directions, right? Ah, Jesus, I'm after getting like Dublin taxi, for God's sake. Call a taxi. Flash one's lights. Yeah, extend right hand and extend middle finger. Yeah, blame Gibbo. Where did I had this earlier on, lads. I'm raging, I can't find it. Hang on. I have it saved here. Let's see here now. Flight training minutes. Thought I had the link. Let me see. Taxi. It's in that book I was looking at. That's not it. We'll find it now together, lads. Don't worry. I'll do the panicking so you don't have to. ATC Ground School, the Skyway Code. In you go, you big Jesse. Open that up and let's have a look. Right, airspace, aerodrome, GA-RIS. Now, let me see. GA-RIS, pilot fitness, airspace, aerodrome operations. Avoiding the ground. Avoiding the ground? Decision making. Okay, so it's in here. Arrival departure procedures 94. Bear with me now. Jesus, there's stuff happening. Hang on, we'll get to this now in a second. We'll break the silence with information that's going to be brilliant. Jesus, old veteran did a thing. Scott, what are you doing, man?
10-4, good buddy.
Old veteran has just gifted 5 tier 1 subs to the community. Sweet lemon, Jay. Thank you very, very much indeed. Cheers, man. Ah, thank you very, very much indeed.
10-4, good buddy.
The man's a legend. Now, let me see. I nearly have it. It's the one thing I didn't write down earlier on, and I wish I had. There, martial information. We're getting close. There's funny pictures here. That's why I'm looking at it.
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
2 aircraft taxi, avoid collision. Now let's have a look. Aircraft collision avoidance, we call it, right? That's the fancy name. So what do we do? Pilot deviation, right? If we need to get out of the way for the oncoming traffic, I'll just write it down here. If our direction of travel is from the south to the north, a bit of space down here. Yeah, okay. Look, we'll use this as an example. If we're taxiing, can you guys see this? If we're taxiing this direction from left to right, okay, and we find ourselves with another aircraft taxiing against us, which is very, very, very rare, but they're going from right to left, okay? The rule is you both need to stop, but it's not just a stop. Each pilot turns to their left. That's his left, or their left, and that's their left. So both aircraft are coming together, turn opposite ways. Very simple, isn't it? Turn to your left. Turn to your left. Fair enough? That was so much time spent trying to do that, but you get the general gist of it. You both turn left. Traffic avoidance. You both turn left because you're turning away. There's nothing worse than, I'm turning left, you turn right. Huh? That won't work. You both turn left. Whatever direction you're facing, it's your left. Fair enough? Always remember that. It's like the oncoming traffic thingy. It's like boat rules. Both turn to your left, to your perspective left, because you're turning away from one another. Okay? Okay. Anyway, once landed, we need to taxi to get off the runway. We're going to be using taxiway Charlie. Once we have vacated the runway, we call Shannon Tower and we transmit the following. Are we ready? Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, vacated onto Charlie.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Roger, contact ground on 121.8. See ya!
Over to 121.8 for Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Now at this stage, it's time to clean up the aircraft, bring in the flaps, if you have spoilers, turn off your landing light because we're on a taxiway, and then we tune into Shannon Ground. So we're going to talk back onto Shannon Ground. Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, vacated onto Charlie, request taxi to General Aviation Parking. Fair enough.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Ground, taxiway Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1, and turn right onto General Aviation Apron.
We respond, taxi to General Aviation Apron via Charlie, right on Delta 2, Delta 1, and turn right onto the GA apron. Forget that right there. I'll tidy this up. There shouldn't be a right there. But let's just look at the instruction that he's given us, right? I'm after... How do you delete this, lads? Oh, yeah, erase it, look. All me graffitied. How do you... Oh, there we go. Jesus, Murph, will you click... Right, here we go. So let's look at the taxiway instruction that we got, okay? So they've told us. We're here now at Charlie. Well, we're actually here. We've cleared that. See that line? We got to clear that. So we said, taxi Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1. You guys see that? Delta 2, Delta 1, and then into into the light aircraft parking, which is here. Okay? That instruction is wrong. That's a left turn. Have I got a right turn? Ah, brilliant! I got it wrong! I'll edit this, don't worry. It should be turn left, not right. You big Egypt Murphy. Put up your right hand. Put up your left hand. Put down your right hand. Look at yourself with your hand. Yeah, right. I got it wrong. That's it. Course over. Case dismissed. I need to fix that. I will fix that, so don't worry, okay? It's a left turn. Anyway, it's small information. But that's it. Once we arrive at the general aviation parking, we proceed to shut down the aircraft, make sure your transponders, your lights, your avionics, and then the engine. And there is no requirement to sign off at ATC unless they give you a specific instruction. At this stage, we can disconnect from the network. And that's it, right? So, friends, let's do this in the sim. As in, you're going to watch me do it in the sim. How exciting. But I'm going to talk you through all the bits and pieces as we're doing it. Okay? Are we ready? Yes, we hope so. So we are in our little aircraft. We're here in Shannon, okay? And let's read through the script. Everyone who has this, start reading through the thing now. Follow along. And I'll stop at each point, okay? Stage 1, we need to obtain the ATIS. Obtain the ATIS, very good. Battery, avionics on for the moment. And we need to tune in our radios.
Shannon Airport information, Hotel 1000 Zulu. Wind 06 tree at 4. Visibility, 9er. Sky condition, 4,800 feet, scattered 13,800 feet scattered. Temperature, 8. Dew point, 1 tree. QNH 29.87. ILS runway 06 in use. Landing and departing runway 06. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have hotel.
Okay.
Shannon Airport information, India 1000 Zulu. Shannon Airport.
Okay, wait. Okay, so Shannon information hotel. We know that runway 6 is active and the QNH is 1011. We know that the winds were 060 at 5 knots, and we know that there are sky conditions of scattered clouds and broken clouds between 4,000 and 13,000 feet. So that's the first thing. We need to write down hotel. We have information hotel. Fair enough? Right. How is this going to change then? How is this going to change? Because the information screen that we have over here, well, it doesn't say hotel, does it? No, it doesn't. But if you look, it says details will differ depending on the call sign and the weather. So what we're going to do here, we're using our call sign. We're still a Cessna 172, but we now have information hotel. Okay? Okay. Let's see what happens. So we're going to tune in. I'm not going to... well, I could change my radio now, but I'm just not going to. So let's just say we've changed our frequency onto the correct one for Shannon ground. We're going to dial up on 121.8 and transmit the following. Are we ready, sports fans? Let's go for it. Shannon ground, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Shannon ground, pass your message.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike is a Cessna 172 at General Aviation Parking, Information Hotel. Request VA4 circuits and engine start.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, you are approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk VA4, active runway is 06, QNH 1011, call for taxi.
Approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk VA4, active runway is 06, QNH 1011, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Do you say pass message instead of go ahead? It depends on the controller. It depends on the controller, right? Murph, you're talking to yourself again. Can you not hear me? You can't hear me. No, you can't hear me, yeah. Don't be freaking me out, lads. Right, so we're after getting our clearance. We have permission. We got our approval. We're allowed to start the airplane. So we're going to start up the airplane. So we go about what we're doing. So park and brake is on. Mixtures in. Make sure we have enough fuel to do this gig, which we have. Beacon light comes on, nav light comes on, parking brake is set. We can go ahead and add some mixture. Open the throttle, add a bit of fuel. Fuel pump on. Lovely hurdling. We're going to say clear prop. And the mags come on. We got a good start. In the mixture while we're taxiing on the ground. Avionics come on at this stage, and you go through your normal flows and checks, yeah? We'll also need to reset our barometric pressure because we have information hotel, and the QNH is 1011. Alright? Don't get bogged down on what to say. Go by this script. Forget everything else, just go by this script, because once we use that as our basis, then we can do everything else, but for now, we go by this script. Cool. Right, so, need to get our aircraft set up. So, a couple of things we're going to do. Depends on the aircraft, of course, you're flying. Keep it something simple that you have good control over. Okay? So, our transponder, we can put it onto standby at this stage. We select standby, and the squawk code for VF4 in Ireland is 7,000. It's like much of Europe. 7,000. Squawk VF4. Okay. We don't squawk it yet. We just put it on standby. Other things we need to do. Well, we're just doing circuits, so nothing I need to worry about there. Comms and radios are all done. Temperatures and pressures are rising. They're doing their thing. And we make sure that our lights are on. Make sure we're trimmed for takeoff. And we should be good. Now, next up. We're ready to taxi. We're ready to taxi. Okay? So, we've started up our engine. We're going to check on our temperatures. When we're ready, we remain on the ground frequency and we're going to transmit the following. You need to write down information here, lads, because you're going to get taxi instructions. Okay? Are we ready? Let's go. Echo India Tango Tango Mike at General Aviation Parking. Ready to taxi.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, taxi via the apron, Alpha, and hold short runway 06.
Taxi via the apron, Alpha, hold short runway 06 for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. That's it. That's all we say. That's it. If there's a change, for example, if there's a change to the information that we have, we could, of course, say we have information hotel. The controller might advise you to say information India is active or whatever, but don't worry about that now. So we're going apron, Alpha, hold short, runway 06. Let's look at our chart. We know where we're going. We're going to go apron, Alpha, and hold short, runway 06. Fair enough? Hey, Dan is here. Many thanks for the subscribe, dude. 17 months. Cheers. Okay, so we know where we're going. We know what we're doing, and we know where we're going. We are good to go now. Taxi via the apron. So our taxis, our taxi tips. Well, taxi light comes on. Get our PD heat on. It's 8 degrees at the moment, so we'll have that all on. So we're going to go off the parking brake. Add in a bit of power. Initial roll. Test the brakes. Make sure they work. We're going to need them. Look out for Johnny's head there. Go handy, Johnny. Or Janie. Let's look this way so it doesn't look terrible, right? And we're going to taxi. So we're taxiing. Now remember, you're taxiing slightly faster than kind of normal walking speed. You don't want to race here. At the same time, you don't want to crawl. We're just taxiing. We're taking our time. And all the while, we're checking out other traffic. Is there other things that are going to absolutely ruin our day? No, we're grand. So we're going to taxi across the apron, which is out this way. We're going to be checking for other aircraft. We keep an eye out for any other aircraft, and if we see things moving, we just need to be aware of it. Maintain a good distance. So we need to taxi up to the whole short line, and on the way, we're going to be using a small little area up here just to do our run-up. Alright? Just taxi casual, but don't look like you're taxiing casual. Yeah. So we're following the taxiway lines here. It's across the apron. Depending on the airport scenery you have in the sim, And this is a challenge of when it comes to Microsoft Flight Sim. You mightn't have the exact taxiway lines. There could be very slight differences, but that's okay. And generally, it's okay. All right. For example, VATSim could be operating on the new Dublin scenery with X-Plane. We don't have that on Microsoft Flight Sim yet. So these are the things, you know, by the way, I'm on Microsoft Flight Sim, don't give me that clearance. Or when it comes to your flight planning, don't plan a departure out of, you know, 28 right, you know? Taxi like you're stealing it. Request high-speed taxi, absolutely. So we're taxiing along. Now we can see some information here above us. That's where the apron is. So that's letting folks know coming down this way. Well, this is where the apron is, right? Can anyone identify the aircraft type? It was there in the corner. So our taxi lights are on. We're keeping an eye on all our temperatures and our pressures. All is looking good so far. Airlock dock, correct. It's a Gikna. Hey, Matt Meredith is here. Good to see you. So now we can see taxiway signage ahead of us. It says Alpha. Huzzah, we are going the right direction. Nice. So we have a hold short before the runway. So if we open up our chart from here, well, we're now on Alpha. Now what I'm going to do, in Shannon, there is a little area over here. Technically not leaving the taxiway. There's actually space on the taxiway here. I just want to do my run-up. And to do a run-up, generally, you'll be facing into the wind. Now, if the airport is super busy, they will put in some sort of a run-up area. They'll tell you, use this area for your run-up, because there could be a lot of traffic, okay? So, for our run-up, what we're going to do... Mr. Rich. Matt Meredith! God almighty, thank you very much indeed. 5 months! Cheers, man! So, for our run-up, we're going to increase our RPM up to about 1750. Mixtures to Rich. And we're going to do a mag test. So, onto left. See a drop of about 150. Back to both. Go to the right. See a drop of about 150. Back to both. Fuel pump on. Throttle 0. Make sure she doesn't cut out. Fuel pump off. And throttle's good. Run up check complete. So again, before we move off, make sure we're all clear, no one's passed us, brakes off, and continue taxi. It's our brief run up checks, alright? So we continue our taxi. Now, to make life easier for us, see your directional indicator here. We know we're going to be using runway 06, so we're going to make life a little bit easy. We're going to make sure that we put our heading indicator on runway heading. That's just going to help us once we get airborne. So we continue on Alpha. Now, once we report up here, we're going to be talking to ground to let them know, hey, we're here, okay? So you have your hold short lines. There's important information to note here, and I'm going to show you this quickly in the drone camera. Because hold short lines can be a divil. On this side, I can taxi all the way up to the actual line, right? But you wonder, why are there these kind of lines on either side on this side? I'll show you now in a second. Sip edge. So we'll hold short here, park and brake on, and get our view over. What I want to show you here, if we were exiting the runway with these runway markings, we're not actually clear of the runway until we get to here. That point. See where these boxes are on either side of it? Yeah? We don't just stop here. Ah, we're clear of the runway, we just stop here. Why is that important? Can anyone tell me why they think that is important? You don't, when you're clear of the runway, you don't just stop here. You gotta move down until these lines stop. Why would that be important? Don't leave your tail out. Correct. You literally could have... you could have... If you have a runway like this, and you stop literally right here, there's a good chance part of your aircraft is still on the runway. You're not clear of the runway. So they have these little visual markers down. On most airports, they have these down to show you. And they do have them in the US, Scott. 100%. Them markings are in the US as well. They might look slightly different, but they are giving you an indication of where the clear line is. Now, on this side, it's not important. Why? Because our nose is the front of the airplane, yeah? But definitely coming off, that's where the clearance is, not before it, alright? So just to be aware of it. Scott, I'll show you a video. It could be new, but I will show you a video. You need to be over the bar when vacating, otherwise you are not considered clear of the runway. Thank you, Skep. Thank you, Skep. Right, so we're holding short. Now it's time to talk to ATC. So we're still on the ground frequency. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, contact tower on 118.7.
Over to tower on 118.7, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Now it's time to tune in tower frequency, 118.7. So let's pretend I've just done it and I press the button. Goosh. Now, we want to make sure we're ready to go because we want to take off. So we want to make sure we're ready to go. At this stage, we're making sure that everything with your heading and lights, everything is pretty much, you're good to go here. You're getting ready to take off. You're going to leave nothing but the landing light and your transponder. Everything else, ready. Trims are set, takeoff briefing, it's all done, okay? Shannon Tower, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha, ready to copy.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, hold position. After departure, runway 06, you are cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet VFR, QNH 1011.
Hold position. After departure, runway 06, cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet VFR, QNH 1011, Echo India Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, correct. Surface wind 0605 knots. Runway 06, clear takeoff. Report on downwind.
Clear for takeoff, runway 06. Report downwind. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Alright. Park and brake coming off. Bit of power. Landing lights on. Transponder on. And flaps set to 1. Drive it on there, Betsy. Now, there's one thing they've told us to do. Check the threshold. Even though you're clear, check the runway. Make sure there's nothing there, right? And we're heading straight out. We don't need to back taxi. For this, just join the runway at Alpha. They put in 1,500 feet. Don't go above that. So we have a maximum altitude we can fly at. So we're going to put in about 1,300 feet on our autopilot. You've never seen the bars in the US? Don't worry, I'll show you examples of them. Okay, so we're squawking, we're talking, and we're soon to get walking. Time to move. So takeoff power set. Airspeed is alive. Little bit of wind. There's 50. There's 60. Oopsie daisy. And we start a climb. So this is known as the departure leg. So we're going to fly the runway heading until we get to about 500 feet, and then we'll be turning left by 90 degrees. Having a look at your direction indicator, you can see where 90 degrees is going to be at. It'll be at a heading of about 330. Yeah? Now we've passed 400 feet, bring the flaps in. We're coming up on 500 feet, and we're going to turn to the left by 90 degrees. Let's turn. We're now turning on the crosswind. So far so good. Maintain your climb. We're now on the crosswind leg. Verify it. Airport. There it is. Nice. We're going the right way, lads. All is well in the realm. Now remember, we're not to go above 1,500, so we need to remember that. We're still climbing. If our speed is too high, we can calm it all down and slow it down. No fear with that. Once we get to 1,000 feet, we're going to turn left another 90 degrees, and this will be our downwind. So we're coming up on 1,000 feet. And we start our turn to the left. So far so good. You have to fly the plane. It's going to be bumpy. You might jump 50 feet. You might drop 100 feet. Don't worry about it. Once we don't pass 1,500, we're safe. Now we'll let the aircraft settle, get ourselves somewhat comfortable, get ourselves trimmed, power the whole lot. And if you look out our window, the runway should be on our left hand side parallel. There's the runway. This is the downwind leg. Now, relax the body. We've done a lot in the last few moments, but we're going to talk through them, okay? You could look for fixed reference points or visual reference points, but I'm just going by the direction indicator. I know once I get to this altitude, turn left and left again, okay? Hey, Captain Arash is here. Very welcome aboard, man. Good to see you. Jesus, 22 months, Captain Arash. Awesome, dude. Awesome. So at this stage, lads, we're at stage 6. So for this session, it's going to be 3 circuits, 2 touch and goes, 1 full stop. You need to report back at ATC. American 87, welcome in. Many thanks for the raid, dude. Hope you had a fantastic stream. Welcome in, folks. We need to report back to ATC once we get on the downwind leg. And once we're on the downwind leg, we call up Shannon Tower and we're going to transmit now the following. So remember, we've taken off, we've turned left and left again. We're now on the downwind. We're going to ask them, or we're going to tell them, we want to do a touch and go. All right? Are we happy enough? I hope so. Rad Baron is here. Good to see you. Okay, so unpause and we continue on. Now, get the plane somewhat sorted. Murph, bring the speed back. Get yourself trimmed. Something like that. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, downwind for runway 06, touch and go.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Roger, report final, runway 06, number 1.
Report final, runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Okay, so we got a report final on report final for runway 6, alright? So we continue on. We stay on the downwind, and how we know, or when we know we can turn, well, the runway 06 should be at roughly a 45-degree angle over a left shoulder. Roughly, alright? So we continue on, try and maintain altitude, keep it at the circuit height. Make sure we're on the correct heading. Pick a visual point and look at it. Pattern work or circuit flying, it's going to differ depending on the day. There could be wind. You might have to aim off. So you have to account for things like that. All right? But for the moment, we're okay. So Red Baron has a good question here. We'll answer that question. Murph, is ATC calling you by your full call sign or just the last 3 identifiers? For this lesson, it's the full call sign. However, it depends on the controller. It depends on the airport. If the controller shortens... Controllers have a habit of shortening information. They have to because they're busy. If they were to shorten my call sign to something like Tango Tango Mike, then I can respond as Tango Tango Mike. But I cannot shorten my call sign to him, or to them, or to they. They must do it first, and then I repeat back. Fair enough? So at all times, I am Echo India Tango Tango Mike until a controller shortens it. Then I can go by the shortened version, which would be Tango Tango Mike, or Echo Tango Mike, whatever. You know what I mean? So we continue on. Great question, though. Within Ireland, it's often the first 4, it's often the first, 4th, and 5th letters. It can be. So in that case, it would be Echo Tango Mike. You'll get used to it when you start hearing it, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right? Now, where's that runway? It is roughly 45-degree angle behind us. So we're going to start making a left turn onto the base leg. And we can start descending here as well. Now, don't forget, we need to report on final, okay? Do. Turn it nicely. Straighten her up there, Murph. There we go. Something kind of like that. Have a look out, and we can see where the runway is. over there. We're way off yet. And again, we're keeping an eye out for other traffic. The controller has us on the radar, so we're going to continue our descent down to 500 feet. And once we get down to about 500 feet, we're going to get ready to turn on final. There's the runway just there, so we should be okay. What would happen if ATC shortens it but the pilot reads back full ID? Would it make any difference? Not really. It's easier for you and the controller if you can shorten it. You know what I mean? So here is the runway. We are now going to turn final. And this is stage 7. So wait till we get on final. Again, we're descending. We're at 500 feet. And this is our first circuit. Echo India, Tango, Tango Mike on final, runway 06, touch and go.
Echo India, Tango, Tango Mike, runway 06, clear, touch and go, wind 050, 4 knots. Report when on downwind.
Cleared for touch and go, runway 06, and we'll report downwind. Echo India, Tango, Tango Mike. Alright, so we're going to do a touch and go. So we continue our approach, and it's a touch and go. We're not landing, we're going to touch and go. We've been told, make contact again or report when we're on the downwind. And that concludes the first part. Alright? So we continue on. Lots of flaps coming in. We're at a good speed. We are a little bit low, but it's fine. Practicing the circuits, doing this lesson, that'll get your own... it'll just get you a lot more comfortable doing what we're doing. Okay? Now we have our clear to land. We've been cleared, so the runway is ours. That's our runway. Hello there, Comic Clown. Good to see you. Skeptic Canton. Look what Skep is writing. So she deals with ATC. So you'll have some really interesting call signs. You know what I mean? So we're looking at the touchdown zone here for touch and go. Flaps are fully set, and it's literally going to touch and go. Right? So easy does it now, Murph. Watch the flare. Easy, easy, easy. There's the touch. Power to full. And let's roll on again. Airspeed at 60. Oopsie daisy. There's our touch and go. Maintain runway heading. And we'll start another climb to 500 feet. Are we following on so far? Don't worry, we'll be practicing this stage by stage by stage next week. So don't worry, if this all looks Jesus Murph, there's no way. I'm telling you, you're going to be grand, right? You're going to be grand. Let's watch that climb there. Speed is quite high. Over 300 feet. Go ahead, bring the flaps in. Coming up on 500 feet. So far, so good. There's 500 feet. We're going to start our turn now. Turn to the left. As we continue to climb, we're going to go up to 1,000 feet. So this is our 90-degree turn. Remember, it's a 90-degree turn, and this is known as the crosswind leg. Yeah? Ozymandias, you take care, dude. So we roll out after 90 degrees. Quick check out the window to make sure the runway's there, which it is. Nice, we're on the crosswind. Continue our climb up to 1,000 feet. So far, so good. Again, you're keeping an eye out for the traffic. You're keeping your ears out if ATC need to talk to you. But we know what we're doing. We're just on the circuit. So here's 1,000 feet. Start our turn to the left. Another 90 degrees. Watch our power settings here as well. Remember, we have to stay below 1,500 feet. And the circuit altitude is usually 1,000. Now, here's a question for you. The circuit altitude, or the pattern altitude, is it tends to be 1,000 feet above the runway. the ground elevation. So what would you do, or what altitude is your circuit if the airport stood at an elevation of 200 feet? What's your circuit altitude going to be? Reading it in the aircraft. Have a think on that. So we're now on our downwind. We're going to talk to ATC again. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, downwind for runway 06, touch and go.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, roger. Report final runway 06. Number 1.
Report final runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. So we're doing the exact same crack again, lads. We're doing another touch and go. 1,200 feet. Well done. Brilliant, lads. It's 1,200 feet. Dirty Sausage, any tips for VFR flights on VATSim? Yeah, dude, that's what we're doing here. This is VFR flying. Now, granted, we're not in VATSim just yet. I'm not concentrating on me heading. I'm making the balls of it. But it's grand, right? Don't worry about it. This is where you learn to practice flying. And as basic and as boring as you think a circuit might be, I highly recommend, I can't recommend it enough, in fact. Practice circuit flying. Practice it. Because you're going to teach yourself skills of being able to control altitude, control a heading, control a speed, and control situational awareness. Circuit training is the best way to learn all of those things. And I promise you, almost everything that we're going to do after this gets easier in terms of the flying. Alright? So be sure to practice circuits. Highly important. Any tips for turning to final visually on a 172? It's a great question. So you want to make sure that your views are set up. In the real world, you can dip your head down. If you use something like a Tobii eye, well, you're laughing. You know what I mean? Now we're going to start our turn here, lads. We're about 45 degrees from the base of the runway. So we're going to turn left onto the base leg. So base leg coming up. We can start a descent here as well. We want to get down to about 500 feet. Watch your speed as well. Don't come in too hot. Now, when we do other lessons, I'll explain what, why ATC might say to you, extend downwind or extend your downwind. That's because there's other users at the airport and they want you to extend your downwind so they create more space. You may have already heard that before. We'll do all that in another lesson, all right?
Hello there.
Hello there. Well, many thanks for the follow. Welcome in, welcome in. So this is the first demonstration that I'm doing with you, yeah? So we'll do it again after this, don't worry. So, time to turn on to final. Speed is good. We're a little bit higher than last time, but that's better for us. So, we can look out the window to see what we're doing. There we go. Like the Tobii eye is genius because you can literally move your head all the way around, you know what I mean? Okay, we're on final here, lads. Echo India Tango Tango Mike on final, runway 06. Touch and go.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, cleared to touch and go. Wind 050 knots. And report downwind.
Cleared for touch and go, runway 06. And report downwind for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. You would usually turn base when you're roughly at a 45-degree angle to the threshold. Yes. Yes, 45-degree angle over your left shoulder. Or if you're on the right hand, your right shoulder. Yeah? So we're going to do another touch and go here, sports fans. This is stage 8. Easy does it now. So the circuit flying, this makes life a little bit easier. But you're starting to pick up already. Ah, okay. It's you're starting to get used to some of the lingo now, yeah? I hope. So touch and go coming up. Get us down onto the touchdown area. Now just remember, when we're landing, we don't need to land at the very start of the runway because we got a long taxi. So just bear that in mind, yeah? Small bit of wind hitting us here. It's okay. There's the flare. There's the touch. Powered in. There's 55. There's 60. Yep, see Daisy. That's our touch. That's our go. And away we go again. We've just completed circuit number 2. So we're going to fly the runway heading. It's fierce exciting this, isn't it? Now, we're now moving on to stage 9, and this is slightly different. Stage 9, we're going to request a full stop landing. It's our 3rd run. So, it's the same crack again. We've been told, report on downwind. We'll report back on downwind. And then we'll tell the controller we're on our downwind and we want a full stop landing. That's the next trick, okay? As we pass about 300 feet, go ahead, bring the flaps in, continue our climb. Once we get to 500 feet, we can start our first turn. And they're 90-degree turns, alright? So it's about 500 feet. Start our turn to the left. Now we can make this a longer turn because the length of the runway in Shannon is huge. You want to pass the runway, yeah? So we'll take our time with this turn. This will just give us that little bit of space. That's why kind of practicing the circuits, it'll stand to you for any type of flying. Okay, so far so good. Verify that the runway is there behind us, which it is. Perfect. And we can start our downwind. At 1,000 feet, turning left. Watch your power settings. Watch your altitude. So far so good. Quick check out the window. There is the airport. Runway 06 is parallel to our position. We are on the downwind. Let's call him up. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Downwind for runway 06. Full stop.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Roger. Report final runway 06. Number 1.
Report final runway 06. We are number 1 for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Are we following so far? Question, the option. How big is the mallet head big? That's a good question. Hello there, welcome in. Sim Mr. Egan says, I've heard sometimes controllers or pilots asking for the option. What does that mean? The option is a range of things. You are cleared to the option, or you were cleared for the option. Are you doing a touch and go, a low pass, or whatever it is? Again, you're going to hear a lot of different phraseology depending on the region, depending on the controller, even depending on the network. What we want to focus on tonight, establish a standard of phraseology as per this script, because if you follow this script, you can do exactly what I'm doing on VATSim. Exactly what I'm doing on VATSim, right? So that's what we're working towards. That's, you know, that's what we're working towards. Now, here's a pro tip for anyone. I have views set up in the airplane, right? Hello there, welcome in. Cloud Surf, welcome in. And who else? T45, welcome in. Thanks for the follows. I have my views set up in the airplane. What's your altitude, Murph? We're a little bit low. I have views set up to look out left 90 degrees and then behind me slightly more. That's ideal in general aviation aircraft. It's like a 45-degree angle over my shoulder. So anyone who's interested in my camera settings, Gibbo showed me the best way to kind of download them for you. So I'll make them available soon. Okay, we're on about a 45-degree angle. We'll turn to the left. I went a little bit low there, but again, we're not overly worried. We didn't break anything. We didn't go too high. It was just noticeable. So we're turning onto the base leg, or a left base. So far, so good. Straighten up. It feels as if the wind picked up here a little bit. Okay, so far so good. So keep an eye out there for the runway. We can see the runway. And again, we're keeping our eye out for other traffic. And we're listening out for other reports. And don't worry if you don't get the accuracy spot on first time round when you're flying. It takes practice, right? So we're now going to turn on final. You made a Hames of that, Murphy. Jesus, the shame. Like, ourselves lined up. We've completely overshot it, but it's fine. We'll fix that. Right, time to talk to tower. Echo India Tango Tango Mike on final for runway 06, full stop.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, clear to land, wind 060, 7 knots.
Clear to land, runway 06, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Now, if you notice on that one, the wind has changed a little bit. It's getting stronger. That'll happen. The wind could change direction, it could change its strength. So you got to be prepared for that, okay? So this is going to be a full stop landing. We're going to land the airplane. We're finished flying for today. So what we're going to do, we're going to extend our landing a little bit because we're going to we're going to vacate on Charlie. We know that from earlier on because that's what we've planned to do, okay? Iceman, yes, this is the MK Studio Shannon. You don't need the payware for this, don't worry. If you're on Xbox and you have the default scenery, that will do just fine. You don't need the payware. I highly recommend it, but you absolutely don't need it, okay? Right, so we're extending our landing here like completely, but that's okay. Plus, it's going to be helpful on the night when we're practicing this because don't worry about greasing a landing, just get the thing down, alright? Easy does it. Easy does it. Okay, so we've extended it now a fair bit, which is perfect. Hold the nose. For the flare. Hold the nose, bleed the speed. This will be gentle. Touchdown. Keep it on center line, apply a small bit of manual braking, and we're going to exit here at Charlie, which is the next one up. If we have a look, our next exit is Charlie. So far, so good. Is our exit? Now remember, we're not clear of the runway until we pass that clear gadget. Until we pass the clearance zone. So continue taxiing until we pass this entire zone. These markings, people are asking me, they haven't seen them before. Don't worry, I will show you real world examples of them. They do exist. And we'll see what the crack is, right? I'll show you where they do exist and why they're used. Do you know where I actually got it from? It was a Rod Machado ground school I did. You guys know Rod Machado? Genius. Excellent. So we are clear of the runway. We're only a small little Cessna. So we stop here. Let's hit our park and brake. Get our flaps in. And then we immediately talk to the tower. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Clear the runway. Vacated onto Charlie.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Roger. Contact ground on 121.8.
Over to 121.8 for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Sweet. Now we tune into Shannon Ground. Shannon Ground, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Vacated onto Charlie. Request taxi to general aviation parking.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Shannon Ground. Taxiway Charlie. Delta 2, Delta 1, and onto the GA apron.
Taxi to GA apron via Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1, and onto the GA apron for Echo India, Tango, Tango, Mike. Okay, so at this stage, landing lights off, and we start our taxi. Looking at our chart, the clearance he's given us, you would write this down, by the way, but we know what we're doing. We're going to come down, Charlie, onto the deltas, so Delta 2, Delta 1, and then back into our aircraft parking. Alright? At this stage, you could, yes, you can absolutely put your transponder onto standby. Your transponder isn't actually needed at this stage, because you're on the ground. You're now under the control of ground. Murph, did you have your taxi light on when flying? No. What are you talking about? I wouldn't do something incredibly inaccurate and stupid like that and waste electricity. Okay, so this is the taxi back. How are we going for time? I think we're doing okay. So you know how to taxi. Again, you're maintaining situational awareness. Make sure there's no one else going to be next or near you. And you're just taxiing back. The speed in which you taxi back is slightly faster than walking speed. It's not a race. You're not pelting it. You know what I mean? Is the tutorial thing on your Discord? Yes. Everything that I'm going through here tonight, that script from start to finish and the instructions, that's in the ground school document that I made. Grab it. It's free. There's no charge to it. Just grab it. And next week, collectively as a group, we're going to start these stages. We won't get 1 to 10 done in one night, but we might get 1 to 4 done. And the next week we might get 5, 6, and 7 done, or whatever. You know what I mean? We'll take it slow. There's a lot of information here. But the idea behind this, I want to show you guys, once you complete it, this is the level you're going to be at. And if you do nothing else on VATSim, you can do this at Shannon Airport to your heart's content on VATSim if you follow this. So don't worry about, this is getting really, really difficult, or, you know, I'm not following along. Fear not. Next week is when we're going to start to actually practice these things that I've just shown off tonight, step by step. Stage 1 to maybe stage 4. That'll be engine startup and taxi, hold short of the runway. That's it. That's all we need to learn. We'll do that part first, and then we move on to the next stages. All right? I can't see anything on the Discord except for channels. If you go into start here, click on the Shamrock, and that'll open up the server. I'll show you now in a moment. All right? Now we've 10 minutes to go. We're going to do something. I'm going to do the very same again, but I'm going to do it quickly. And I'm not going to explain. I just want you guys to listen. Okay? So, that taxi light shouldn't be there. At this stage, there's no more need to talk to the controller. We don't need to sign off. We don't need to tell them, we've just arrived now at General Aviation Parking. We don't need to do any of that. If the frequency is quiet, you can of course jump on and say, thanks very much for your help. It was a great flight. If you want. You don't have to. It's not part of any sort of procedure. But if the frequency is quiet, you can of course do that. Okay? Okay, so at this stage, aircraft is now finished. Taxi nav strobe off, avionics off, and kill the mixture. Plane is off, battery off, cold and dark. Okay. Are we happy? We're happy. That was a full talk. Then we did a full walk. And now I'm going to do this one last time, real time, without explaining. I'm not going to do 3 circuits because I'm looking at the time. I'll just do 1 circuit. I'll take off. I'll report on the downwind. And I'm going to tell them I want to land. Full stop landing. Fair enough? And I want you guys to follow along in the manual and just have a look at what I'm reading and how I'm reading it. Okay? Follow along word for word. And this is what it's all going to come to. So, first thing first, get the aircraft up and running. . So need to wait for the Garmin units to turn on. Beacon light, nav light is on. Roger? Roger. 10 minutes. We'll have this done in about 10 minutes. Then I need to go and lie down. Take forever, come on. Do. Enter, enter. Yes, yes. Okay, so the ATIS frequency for Shannon is 1309905. 309905. Jesus, we're getting things. Paparazzi 5 gifted tier 1 subs. The absolute ledge, Paparazzi. Thank you very, very much indeed. Jesus.
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Paparazzi. Very, very kind of you. Cheers, man. Right. I'm just going to do this relatively fast. No more explaining. And let's see how we go.
Shannon Airport information, India 1100 Zulu. Wind 06 at 4. Visibility, Niner.
That's a big 10-4,
Sky condition, 4,800 feet, scattered 13,800 feet scattered. Temperature, 8. Dew point, 1 tree. QNH 29.87. ILS runway 06 in use. Landing and departing runway 06. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have India.
Shannon Ground, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Ground, pass your message.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike is a Cessna 172 at General Aviation Parking. Information India, request VA4 circuits and engine start.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, you are approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk VA4, active runway is 06, QNH 1011, call for taxi.
Approved for VA4 circuits and engine start. Squawk VA4, active runway is 06, QNH 1011, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Clear prop. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, General Aviation Parking, ready to taxi.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, taxi via the apron, Alpha, hold short runway 06.
Taxi via the apron and Alpha and hold short runway 06. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Sounds are good, aren't they? I was going to be very quiet there for a minute, but it's me. If I'd be talking to myself in the plane anyway, do you know? I'd be saying, Jesus, look at that over there. Oh, they could do a cutting the grass, you know. So we need to get up to where Alpha is and hold short. We're on the apron, we're taxiing, and we're going to hold short. We're going to do a run up here. Most importantly, I'm going to refill my tasty beverage. We would be hearing much. Look at the state of that, indeed. Okay, so we're going to ramble up for the run-up area. We got to hold short runway 06. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, contact tower on 118.7.
Over the tower on 118.7, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Change your frequency to the tower. Shannon Tower, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, holding short runway 06 at Alpha, ready to copy.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, hold position. After departure, runway 06, you are cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet via 4. QNH 1011.
Hold position. After departure, runway 06, cleared for left-hand circuits, not above altitude 1,500 feet via 4. QNH 1011.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, correct. Surface winds 0607 knots, runway 06, clear for takeoff and report downwind.
Clear takeoff, runway 06 and report downwind. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Landing light on, strobes on, transponder on, and let's get on to boogie. Dee, good to see you. Epic fool, exactly. I've rented out all of Shannon Airport, lads. So remember, we're just going to do one circuit here. One straight circuit, and that's it. Okay, we're on the runway. We're walking, talking, and squawking. Extra rich. Power coming in. Airspeed live. Here's 50. Here's 55. Yep, see Daisy. fight off a little bit of that wind. Oh, bit of wind there, lads. Deadly. Okay, once we get to 500 feet, it's going to be a turn to our left. There's 500. Start a turn. Get to 1,000 feet. It's a left turn onto our downwind. Start a turn. Parallel to the runway. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, downwind for runway 06, full stop.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, roger. Report final runway 06, number 1.
Report final runway 06, number 1, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Nice. Continue on. So we got a report on final. A beautiful area, isn't it? Tis only stunning, stunning. So we're going to wait for that. The start of the runway needs to be around 45-degree angle. That's when we can turn. Okay, roughly there. Start a turn for our down, for our base leg. Watch our speed. This is our base leg. So we're going to let that speed bleed off a little bit. We're descending. We're going to get down to about, maybe 600 feet or so.
Hello there.
Hello there. Fly Jansen. Many thanks for the follow. Welcome in. How are you? Nearly there. Know how to swim. Any rules for single engine over water? You're not necessarily, like, it depends. If you're just transiting an area, or if there's water in the vicinity, it's, you know, it's you'd only have to take things a lot more consideration if you were doing long range flying over water. You know what I mean? Life jackets. Learn how to swim. That's my favorite. Here's how straighten up there, Murph. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. On final for runway 06. Full stop.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, runway 06, clear to land, wind 060, 7 knots.
Clear to land, runway 06. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. We are clear to land. Epic Phil says, Stefan Drury says, or does a great video on the long range aspect of it, but the rule of thumb I was given, you should never be over water and not be able to glide to land. Yep, makes sense. Canoehead says, you folks are making me nervous. I board a sailboat tomorrow for a 5-day voyage. That's okay. I'm the instructor. Okay. Approach to the runway. Again, we're going to be taxiing off at Charlie, so we'll extend this landing. As if we'll just keep going a lot more. We don't need all this runway. On. Long landing. Yeah. Shannon Airport, the runway here is massive. It was a backup runway for the space shuttle. That'll just tell you how big. Ooh, there's the wind causing all sorts of hassle. Stand a little bit further. Okay. Wait for it. Touchdown. Bit of a bounce. We're a student pilot. It's okay. It's grand. Okay, so here's Charlie. Once we get over the line, a little bit further down. Echo India Tango Tango Mike vacated onto Charlie.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, roger, contact ground on 121.8.
Roger, over to 121.8. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Shannon ground, Echo India Tango Tango Mike vacated onto Charlie, request taxi to general aviation parking.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Shannon ground, taxiway Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1, onto the GA apron.
Taxiway Charlie. Right on. I made a mistake. What do we do? Shannon ground. Say again.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Taxiway Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1, turn right onto the GA apron.
Taxiway Charlie, Delta 2, Delta 1, onto the GA apron.
Hello there.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike. We did a thing! We did a thing! Who is this? Shadow, welcome in. Okay, so get ourselves tidied up here now before we go. So landing lights come off. Bring our flaps in. Lean mixture for taxi. Transponder at this stage onto standby. And we continue on. So we got a taxi clearance back in. I hate when I correct myself as well. Joey Bolo, good to see you, man. So, a quick rundown. With this book that we have, with this document that we have, if you read stages 1 to 10 and just start getting familiar with that, that is enough to be able to do what I've just done here tonight with a real controller on in Shannon. There will be small differences. Your call sign will be different. The weather will be different. The information, the barometric pressure, all of that will be different. But as a general script for phraseology of what to say, how to say it, what to read back, and when to read back, that has it all in its entirety. That there's enough on that to get us started. What we're going to focus on next week is practicing this together as a group, but we're going to take it slowly. I don't want anyone feeling that we're moving too far ahead. However, for anyone who I don't want thinking we're moving too slow, I want you guys to let me know back on Discord. Drop me a DM. As I said, a huge thanks to Skeptic Canton yesterday, and also the guys over at VATAir. There will be options if we want. We can staff up some of the control towers on VATSim in Ireland, Shannon or Cork or something like that, if a select few pilots want to do this on the VATSim network. Also, we can staff up these towers on Discord during the week if you guys want it. If we get enough numbers, we can do it. If you don't have time to do it this week, that's fine. We're not going to move ahead of you. It's only if other people feel that they think they can now actually give this a shot, well, let me know and we'll set things up for you. If anyone is stuck, if anyone is completely lost on flying a circuit, or how to get the aircraft to handle what it's doing, or setting up views, or anything, if you're stuck, if you're lost, just make sure you ramble over to the Discord. You have the ATC Course channel, and you also have the ATC text channel. If anyone's stuck, let me know. Everything that I've used here tonight, including I have a really handy document about flying a perfect circuit. Really handy. All the information, when to turn, what altitude, and what to do. I'm going to make this available over on the Discord as well. Everything Murphy needs to make a phone call because I went off the runway. Never mind, it's totally fine. Totally fine. We were just testing the brakes. We were just testing the brakes. It's totally fine. But anyway, if anyone's stuck, don't feel that you're stuck. All right, I don't want anyone thinking that we're moving too far ahead. And at the same time, anyone who feels they are a little bit ahead, well, we can get VATSim coverage up and running as soon as you're ready. It's you guys. It's up to you guys. Tuesday and Thursday, I think there's an option. So yeah, will we be flying on live weather next week? Crosswind is not my friend. No, we're going to stick to the script. We're like the weather I'm using in the sim is based on what that script says. I've manually changed the weather in the sim, and the sim will read that out as part of an ATIS. So don't worry. There's going to be all sorts of hand holding next week, so don't worry. If any of this has gone over your head, fear not. We'll take it step by step the whole way. And as I said, we'll probably only get steps 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 done next week, and then we do the other ones the week after. Your homework this week, because I gave you homework last week, right? Read down through the manual, the ground school manual, right? Hang on, we got ourselves parked here and shut down. Okay, transponder now goes to off. We had it on standby, but we're finished. We don't need to report to the tower. Parking brake on, landing lights off, strobes are off, taxi lights are off. What else do we need to do here? Transponder's already off. Avionics coming down. Mixture out. Nice. Nav light off. Beacon light off. Fuel shut-off valve out. Keys out. Battery. And that'll do us. As I said, what we'll do... that was pleasant. What we'll do, we'll have everything that's going to be, everything that we're doing, all the information, I'm going to post it all. Have a read over it. That's the homework. Have a read over all the documents. There's not a ton of reading in it. When it comes to the airspaces and charts and all of these things, glance over it. Have a read of it. We don't need to go study level into that stuff yet. Yet. We will at some stage, but not just yet. Hey, Axel! Axel is here. Many thanks for the follow. Good to see you, man. Don't be going on about homework. But we have a week. We have a week. And if you don't have time to do anything, don't worry, because next week we're going to start the practical side. As a quick recap, just over the document. This is the document. It is the Ground School ATC document, right? It's available on our Discord. And tonight we're going to focus, well, we have focused on charts, ATIS, airspace, ground operations, and then putting it all together, lesson 2. Just read down through it. It's just familiarity. You know, it's on a PDF, so you can throw it onto your iPad or whatever and have a read down through it, okay? It's going to show you what to do, how to do it. It explains what we're doing. Each stage is telling you what we do. The pilot, obviously your call sign will change. And here's one for you. Start practicing just reading this out loud to yourself, but I want you to use your call sign. Use your call sign, because you need to get used to saying it, and you also need to get used to hearing it. You need to get used to someone saying that call sign. Just as much as if someone calls your name, you'll instantly say, yeah, that's me. It's the same, all right? And then just read down through it. When it comes to practicing a circuit, I'll make this document available, because this is the flying part. There is a basic assumption that everyone is able to fly a plane within reason. However, there are certain skills that will be advantageous to you for doing any sort of online flying. Remember, online flying is designed to enhance your flight simulation experience. It's to enhance it, right? And it will enhance it. However, there are some basics that you need to get covered. So anyone who's struggling with flying a circuit, use this as the absolute entry level to how to fly your plane. Stick to the circuit flying, because later on, when we arrive at another airport, for example, well, we need to know the circuit, because we'll have to join the circuit in order to get into a landing, especially with VF4. All right, so there's important things we'll be learning later on. For now, I'll make this available as well. I put in all my sources, by the way. I'm not the author of this, so anywhere you see a source, that's letting you know where I got it from. A lot of the other stuff I'll write it up myself, but this sort of stuff, no. So I'm not the source, if you like, on this. Do I have this? Yeah, circuit flying tips. I have this saved, so I'll make sure I throw it in there for you. All right. And as I said, everything that we've covered tonight is going to be in the Discord. Next week, we will take our time slowly and surely progressing all of these stages. As a quick recap, we'll go from stage 1, obtaining an ATIS. Okay. Stage 2 is going to be contacting ATC, in which we will staff ATC. You'll be talking to a controller. Don't worry about being on the network. It's only us. It'll be me and maybe a handful of others in different rooms. Okay? Then we do the startup. Then we'll do a taxi. And then we'll go, I'd say for next week, enough will be getting us to the hold short of runway 6. Once we hold short of runway 6 and we contact ground to say we are holding short, when they tell us to contact tower, that'll be the end of the lesson for that pilot, because we'll just do these stages. Baby steps here, guys. Baby steps. All right? And if we focus on this and this alone, we're going to use this as our standard standardized training, because at least we all have somewhere we can point back to. I will read through this, and I said it at the start, if there's mistakes, if I get something wrong, I am but a human. Granted, I'm an idiot. I put a lot of time in this, but that's not to say that this is perfect. It's far from perfect. I'm trying to design this in such a way that you guys find it useful. You know what I mean? And helpful. So that's the hope. That's the whim, right? So I suppose now it's a quick Q&A, lads. I've maybe 5 minutes. If you want to ask any questions, fire for effect. Ask a couple of questions. It could be to do with tonight. It could be to do with the course in general. If you have any questions, well, now is a good old time to just drop them into the chat. This week's schedule also, it's posted as well. So on Wednesday, we're going to be bringing you the news. I've nothing available on Friday. I'm at a work do on Friday, but I'll stream over the weekend. No. In my airport, they just say left 360 somewhere on downwind. You can do a left 360. Yes, again, that's more Americanized stuff. And we're doing all our basic training in Shannon, and we're going to do our first flights out of Shannon on VATSim. As we progress, we'll find another base in the United States, and we'll use that as our American base or our US base, and then we'll do a conversion course. We'll start learning the different ways of how to fly in the US. You know what I mean? And then we'll get on to the airliners. It'll be fun. You know. Have a great week. I'll be back in time for the next lesson. I'm bringing my homework with me. Mind yourself, canoe head. Enjoy yourself. Yes, Murphy, but you're our Aegis.
Hello there.
Hello there. Welcome in. Hello there. Super work. This is my pleasure, because it's good for me as well to learn it. And, you know, when we started off 2 years ago, a lot of what we did was jump in, go flying, do a thing, and that was it, right? So we're getting really, really good at that. I mean, look at what happened over the last 2 years. We've had people who do close formation, air shows, airliners, you know, circumnavigate the entire planet, celestial navigation, scenery development, aircraft development. Everyone's getting into their own zone here. So I think a natural progression, if you like. Okay, how do we enhance this hobby of ours? Virtual ATC is absolutely one way of doing that. And the good news is it's free. And to help with the Xbox pilots, well, we're going to use our Discord. And again, there's information in this document. How do you get connected? What do you need to do? All the information is in this little document, and which is available over on our Discord. So it's all there. Crashes, we've done them too. Yes, we'll have to train how to do crashes. That'll be fun. But yeah. Is there any government funding for the courses? I'm a bit skint at the minute. For those that came in late, will be posted on YouTube later for everyone to follow along. Yes, thank you, Scott. Everything tonight is going to be posted on YouTube, and I'm going to break it down into sections. Remember, part 1 tonight of this lesson. Part 1 was talking you through what's going to happen. Part 2 was me flying it and explaining what I'm doing at each stage. And part 3 was what it would look like and sound like in a live environment with speed and haste and everything else. Yeah. So all of that will be available for you. Okay. I love it. I might use it and adapt it to fast jets. Yeah, 100%. Is the grand finale for this course learning how to cross the pond? Well, you see, we're going to have our own VATSim event, but that's way down the road. We're going to have the hope is we'll try and get a couple of VATSim events. Let's see how we go, though. Let's learn the basics first, and then let's see where we can take this thing. But I think it could be pretty cool if we do a couple of fly-ins, for example. Different community fly-ins on VATSim. It could be a lot of fun, right? It could be a lot of fun. One step at a time, exactly. And like, guys, you know, there's other content creators out there. Arch came in. He's doing ATC on his streams, Arch NDA. In our own community, we have Skeptic Canton. Epic Fool is you'll always find Epic Fool online on VATSim. He's doing his stuff. You have the guys at VATAir. There's a user called Squawk Mode Charlie. He's excellent. He's a VATSim controller in Ireland. He tends to take up Dublin or Shannon. We've Adam Guido who's there. There's a lot of awesome stuff and content when it comes to people controlling ATC. And it's think about it this way, as Epic Phil says, there's currently one in Scotland. Like, where did you fly last night and who did you speak to? Yeah, well, I left Dublin and I flew to France and I was talking to a French person. That's pretty cool. You know, yeah, I was controlled by French ATC, or, you know, I was controlled by Scottish ATC. It's pretty cool, right? Or yeah, no, I flew in the States and we took off from wherever, and, you know, we're talking to this dude from Texas. That's so cool, because you're talking to real people. And they tend to be from those areas. You know what I mean? Our very own Skeptic Canton, it's Geneva, right? That's what Skep looks after. And as I said, there's plenty of other content creators. If you're into this thing, just spend time looking and learning and reading. It there's a lot to it. But this course is designed to prepare us with a very kind of standardized way of doing things. Like, just to put things into perspective, this script of what to say and how to say it, like there was 9 different controllers involved in this to get it right. Right? And a lot of time went into it. About 30 hours went into this. Nuts. Now, not just the talking bit, but like the whole thing so far. It's about 30 hours gone in. So, Geneva. Yes, Geneva. Excellent. And how are you for helicopter ops? Well, that's another thing we're going to look at doing later on. We're going to look at the choppers. We're going to look at the airliners. And then we kind of see how we get on from that. You know what I mean? So, with that, I shall bid you adieu. Thank you all so very, very much indeed for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Any feedback at all, let me know how things are going, good or bad or indifferent. And you'll catch me always over on Discord as well. So do be sure you ramble over to Discord. Many thanks for all the support tonight. The amount of subs have been off the chart, literally off the chart. So thank you very much indeed for all the resubs and the gifted subs as well. Not to mention the bits, and of course all the follows. We've had an absolute ton of them as well. So a huge thanks to everyone for bearing with me talking and rambling for the best part of 3.5 hours. But I hope you guys find this useful. And remember, next week we'll start the practical side of it in condensed little baby steps. And Gibbo, who's not here tonight, it gives me great advice on what way to break down the lessons. So even though, like, yeah, Gibbo, look at the head in you. Liverpool beating United 7-0. Do you know what I mean? It's just to give a good shout out to our good old pal Gibbo as well. So no doubt he'll be looking this back at some stage and he'll be saying, Murphy, you're an idiot. I told you don't do that. Do you know what I mean? And a huge shout out again to Skep with all the help yesterday and the day before and last week and probably what's coming down the line as well. So stand by for the raid. We'll go say hello to someone. I'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.